of Appeal for Tuesday, February 13th is in session. Just a reminder, please make sure your cell phones are all off. And in conformance with the open meeting law, this meeting is being live streamed. If you have conversations, please take them outside of the room because the acoustics in here are terrible. Let's see, finally, I see a lot of new faces here. If you're here to speak either in support or in opposition of a project, when you come up, give us new information because you may have gone through a community process. So the community opinion, the BRA's opinion, everybody's opinion is advisory to us. We want to hear some new information. So when you come up, put your name and address on the record and give us some new information. If somebody has already stated your concern, just put your name and address on the record. Okay? That'll help us get more information when the case is before us to make a smart decision. Okay? Go ahead, Mr. Fortune.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. The first order of business is the approval of the hearing minutes of January 9, 2018 in 55 Hull Street. I need a motion.
Motion to approve is written.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Calling the first case for extension for 930 Case BOA 511897 175 St. Paul Street. Come up here, sir. Right at the table. Name and address for the record, please.
It's Baba Shah, 175 St.
You
Paul.
can sit down.
Your name and address is on the record. Please
Yes.
tell us what you're requesting.
I'm requesting an extension. This expired. I didn't know that my architect had submitted this, and I submitted another one, and you know, this one I'd rather go through the initial process than to start all over again.
Okay, so when did this expire, or has it expired yet?
I believe last week.
Yes. February 9th.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll give motion for a one-year extension.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BZC 29846 1954 Commonwealth Avenue.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I recuse myself from this.
Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Paul Rufo, Smith, Duggan, Buell, and Rufo, 99 Summer Street in Boston. I'm an attorney representing the applicant, the U Family Trust. This is a request for a one-year extension. The board previously had granted a one-year extension, which is expiring March 31st, 2018. During the last year, we've had hearings and meetings with the Aberdeen Commission. They actually ran into a snag. We ended up in litigation, and now the parties are discussing a resolution of that litigation. We're very hopeful that that'll be resolved and that the project will move forward within the next year. So if it pleases the board, we would request a one-year extension of the...
I'll make a motion for a one-year extension.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
You're
you
all
very
set.
much. Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 538-974, 61 Heath Street. Is Heath Street here? All right, we'll hold on to that one. Sorry. Is Holborn Street? Is Holborn under that one? Is Holborn under that one? Okay. Are these both together? Okay. Calling the next case, calling BOA 551-991, 46 Holborn Street. It's also a companion case, BOA 551-989, 295 to 305 Blue Hill Avenue. Name and address for the record, please.
Joanna Smith, Community Builders,
Yeah, but we just-
185 Dartmouth Street. And Lindsay Gale with the Community Builders, 185 Dartmouth Street.
Tell us what you're requesting.
We're requesting a 6-month extension on the zoning variance, which the deadline is April 8th.
Will that be enough?
Yes, we've made good progress. We have our initial submissions to some of the city agencies, but want to make sure that we have
Would it be
ample
safer
time.
to say to have a 1-year extension in case you run into some circumstance instead of a 6-month?
That'd be great. Yes, please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set for 1 year.
Thank you.
Calling the next two cases, calling BOA 374080, 48 West Tremlett Street. Companion case BOA 374078, 50 West Tremlett Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Thomas Rivero, 25 Surrey Road, Hingham, Massachusetts. Madam Chair, we're respectfully requesting an extension to BOA approval that was granted on 11/2015.
So has the approval expired already? Did it expire in November?
November 2017, and we were involved in an extensive Boston Water and Sewer approval process, BRA design review, and Public Utilities would not accept a curb cut package until Boston Water and Sewer was approved.
Well, what were the extenuating circumstances that you let this expire and didn't come to us in November?
The owner was dealing with a death in the family where he had to travel back to Europe, and then he was involved in trying to arrange for financing. It's two adjacent two-family projects, and he applied for residential loan, and he was told he had to go for a commercial loan, so it was extended period of time. When we finally went to ISD, they told us BOA had expired.
So this has expired. It expired in November, and now you're asking for an extension.
Yes.
Who was not on the ball to make sure that the paperwork was in place?
Madam Chair, I believe the owner was trying to arrange for financing. Once he arranged for that,
Regardless, that's the second track. We just need to make sure that as far as the process is concerned, that we are not giving permits to permits that have been that are expired. People need to understand it's a two-year process. The permit is alive for 2 years. And not unless you're here for an extension.
It did expire in July of last year.
July of last year, okay. So here's a moment of decision-making.
Motion for denial for the extension.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that is our decision. Thank you.
thank you, Madam Chairman.
You don't have to sign that. Yep. Calling the next case, calling BOA 534-886, 13 to 19 Congress Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Attorney Andrew Cara. I'm an attorney here in Boston. I represent the current owner of the property, having an address of 53 State Street in Boston.
Greg Sampson with Brown Rudnick in Boston, representing the proposed buyer of the property.
Tell us why you're here?
We're requesting a 1-year extension of the existing zoning decision that's set to expire on March 9th, 2018.
Okay. Is there a reason?
Property's currently under purchase and sale agreement to be sold in March. The purchase and sale agreement was signed in December of last year. It's a complicated project. It's part of the Congress Square redevelopment project.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Calling the next case is calling BOA 395-960, 22 Brookford Street. The two companion cases, BOA 395-962, 24 Brookford Street, and BOA 451-574, 332 Talbot Avenue. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Derek Small. I have a business address of 15 Broad Street, Boston, Mass. 02109. Madam Chair, I'm here today seeking a 1-year extension of the board's decision granting relief for these addresses. We had an issue with the financing. It was delayed the start of the project. And at this time, the issues have been resolved, and we're looking to move forward with the project.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion for a one-year extension.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good
Thank you
luck.
very much. Have a good day.
Calling the next case for G-Card, calling BOA 788-210, 102 St. Paul Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Mark Lacasse, Lacasse Law, 75 Arlington Street in Boston. I'm the attorney for the applicant. The sole zoning issue on this matter is installation of a groundwater recharge system under Article 32. The project is a conversion of a single family to a two-family, which is an allowed use in the St. Botolph district. And so we seek approval of a conditional use permit for installation of the groundwater recharge system. And I have the letter from Boston Water and Sewer Commission.
Yes,
for
we're
the
going to need
file.
that. We don't have one.
Christian?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Christian Simonelli, Groundwater Trust, and we do have the approval letter from Boston Water and Sewer.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank
you.
Are there any deferrals or withdrawals for 9:30? Is Heath Street here for the first, we called 61 Heath Street? Are they here yet? We'll get them to that after 9:30. Calling the first case for 9:30, BOA 694-026, 77 to 85 Liverpool Street. This is to erect 22-unit residential with 2 office space on a newly created 8,000 square foot lot. The violations, Article 25, Section 5, flood hazard districts. Article 53, Section 56, off-street loading is insufficient. Article 53, Section 56, off-street parking is insufficient. Article 53, Section 8, multifamily dwelling is forbidden. Article 53, Section 8, offices are forbidden. Article 53, Section 9, the lot area for additional dwelling units is insufficient. Article 53, Section 9, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 53, Section 9, the height is excessive. Article 53, Section 9, the usable open space is insufficient. Article 53, Section 9, the front yard is insufficient. Article 53, Section 9, the side yard is insufficient. And Article 53, Section 9, the rear yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Richard Lynch, 245 Sumner Street, East Boston. On behalf of the petitioner, with me is James Christopher, RCA LLC, the architect on the project. Also to his right is Gene Goodman, who is the principal of the entity that owns the property. Madam Chair, this proposal would combine 2 lots to create a new 8,000 square foot lot, demolish the existing 2 two-family structures that exist on the lot, and propose a multifamily, 22-unit multifamily residential with 2 small office spaces located at grade. This would include a total of 11 parking spaces on the site. I'll run through the zoning relief that's necessary shortly. I just want to talk a little bit about the location in the context of this particular area. This area is located between Central Square and Maverick Square in East Boston. It's within close walking distance of both. Maverick Square maintains an MBTA Blue Line station, which provides for dependable, reliable public transportation. This also is within close walking distance to Lepresti Park, so there are a number of amenities in the immediate area. This area is under ongoing change presently. 2 projects this board recently approved. The Coppersmith Village project is located directly across the street. That's a mixed income project with structures up to 5 stories in height. Also 60 Border Street, the Boston East site, is located less than a block away. That's a 200-plus unit residential development with retail at the lower level. There are a number of other projects in this area in between Central Square and Maverick Square that are proposed to be coming down the pipeline relatively soon. Because of the size of this project, this was subject to Article 80E2, small project review with the Boston Planning and Development Agency. We had an opportunity to vet this with the urban design team at BPDA. I made a number of changes to this project based upon input from both BPDA and community comments that we heard. We ultimately appeared before the BPDA and received our certification approval from the BPDA board for this project. With respect to the zoning relief that's necessary, this is located in the 3F 2000 zoning districts. Accordingly, a multifamily use would be forbidden, as well as the use at the lower level for, which was intended for professional offices. The number of units or the number of, total amount of square footage that's required for additional number of units would also be violated, as 1,000 square feet per unit would be necessary. We do meet the requirements for lot width and lot frontage at 100 feet. The floor to area ratio that we're proposing is a 2.52, where the maximum in the district is a 1.0. I would point out that it is consistent, if not lower, than the FARs that are being currently constructed on the two sites that I mentioned previously at Boston East, as well as Coppersmith Village. The height of the building is 49.5 feet, total of 5 stories, quite consistent with the height of Coppersmith Village, and actually lower than Boston East. There is, if you have any context photos for the site, the Sumner Tunnel vent shaft building, which is roughly a 7 or 8 story building located in close proximity as well. The total usable open space is about 1,615 square feet. That would be below the requirement under the 3F 2000 district. I would point out that it is adjacent to the Veterans Memorial Park, which provides an opportunity for a substantial amount of open space. We do understand that there likely will be Parks Commission review associated with that, and we're prepared to make a contribution to the Parks Commission with respect to the use of that open space. The front yard setback, we are proposing a modal setback, which we believe is consistent with the alignment along Liverpool Street. So although we do not meet the 5-foot setback, we do meet the modal setback requirement. Those side yard setbacks vary. We paid special attention to the abutter to the left of the property and shifted the building approximately 12 feet, which will act not only as a driveway, but an additional buffer between the property to the left-hand side and the proposed structure. It does go down to 1.2 feet on the right-hand side, which we require variance for, as the requirement is 2.5 feet. The rear yard setback that we're proposing is a total of 17 feet, which is less than the 30 feet that's required. And again, the total number of parking spaces that are being proposed is 11. The mix of the unit count, this is a mix of 2 bedrooms and studios. There are a total of 16 studios and 6 2-bedrooms with, the, as I mentioned, the 2 smaller commercial spaces. The size of the 2 bedrooms range from 800 to 900 square feet, and the studios are roughly 470, 480, up to about 670 square feet. This will include a total of 3 IDP units, based upon the fact that we're in excess of 10 units requiring zoning relief. We will provide a mix of Group 2 units with the 3 IDP units that we're proposing, and Mr. Christopher can speak to that as well. I'm happy to answer any questions of the board.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate.
And so the ground floor office space and parking is to address flood hazard, the flood hazard
So this
requirements.
Yep.
Okay.
This location is flood zone A.
So how are the mechanicals taken care of in the event of a flood?
The mechanicals will be below grade in a at the front of the building where the commercial space is located. There will be mechanical and storage spaces in the basement area, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Also, the IDPs you had mentioned, can you go over that one more time for me, please?
Sure. So the requirement is 13%. That would be roughly 2.85 for the 22 units. We're rounding up to 3, so a total of 3 IDP units. It'll be a mix. My guess is it'll probably be 2 studios and 1 2-bedroom, as D&D requires a mix of the units, and they'll be located on different floors. We've not selected what those units are at this time, but we can work with D&D and BPDA on what those will be.
The package that we've provided, Mr. Galvin, shows potential uses for the IDP units, just labeled that we thought would be appropriate per the BPDA.
The height is 49, 50 feet?
Just under 50, 49
50, 49.
And what is allowable?
35.
35. And what is the, what's the contextual situation? What's the height of the buildings in the area? It's a pretty big jump over 35 feet.
Yeah, so it is a mix. There are a number of 3 stories along that side of the street. I did point out, I don't know if you have context photos. I do have a few, if we can provide them. Neighborhood context does show, and I can provide this to the board. The vent building located on that side of Liverpool Street stands at about 7 to 8 stories. Directly across the street is the Coppersmith Village project, which is under construction. That is approved up to 5 stories. That actually is the lower level is commercial, so that is actually in excess of the 50 feet.
In conjunction with that, Mr. Ehrlich, the 5th level, the penthouse level, has been set back from the street with the roof deck abutting Liverpool Street to mitigate the shear wall height on Liverpool Street.
So besides, I mean, the vent shaft is east of it. But aside from the building across the street, what's, again, we don't have the neighborhood context here. Is it mostly 2-3 families?
So mix of 2s and 3s. As you get closer to the street the cross street at Decatur, there are some 4-story buildings. But again, the bulk of the development that's happening, Mr. Ehrlich, at that location, directly across the street, is 5 stories with the commercial level at the lower level. So the building across the street will actually be taller once completed.
One across?
I think it's over 150 units.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a large project, yeah.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jesus Garcia with the Office of Neighborhood Services. During the abutters meeting, the project received strong support from the direct abutters. Therefore, we would like to be in support of this project. Thank you.
Council wishes to go on record in support.
Thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, minor authorized representing the Carpenters Union. We'd like to go on record in support of this project.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval, BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with that proviso.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling BOA 777068, 245 Summer Street. This is a change of occupancy of a commercial or restaurant to professional office. Violations Article 53, Section 8, office use is forbidden use. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Richard Lins, 245 Sumner Street, East Boston, on behalf of the petitioner. Madam Chair, this was a matter that was before the board back in 2014 for the approval of a mixed-use building, 34 residential units with commercial space at the lower level. At the time we initially filed this, the intent was to go with a restaurant or some type of retail use at that location. Throughout the community process and through the BPDA process, it was determined that that was probably not the best use for that, and it was changed to a professional office. I'm sure you'll recognize the address from what I put on the record. This is a technical change only. The neighborhood supported commercial use at the lower level, so we're simply changing out the non-conforming use of restaurant retail to another non-conforming use of professional offices.
How many square feet is this professional office?
It's about 2,200 square feet total.
200, and any idea of what kind of professional office?
Law practice?
Oh. Okay. Okay. Given that information, how are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Well, they're actually very good.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jesus Garcia with the Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support for this project. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we have City Councilwoman Yetman's office. The council wishes to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
And the BRA is recommending approval for exterior work, including signage.
Is there any exterior work?
They're looking for design review.
Yeah, if we decide to choose to have signage, which I probably won't, then we'll go through the BPDA process. But
Now, this happens at your office, correct?
this would be my office, yes.
So
You don't want anybody to
I don't want
know
people to know where I am.
let's put the proviso in case
Yeah,
you need
it's
to
fine.
come out, you have to come over.
Is that aggressive design review?
Absolutely. Very good.
Okay,
Small
so
letter.
we have that on the record. Okay, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Oh, did we have a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now you're set.
Calling BOA 785-893, 58 to 60 Salem Street. This is a change occupancy from stores in one apartment to a restaurant with takeout called the Juicery in one apartment. Violations Article 54, Section 12. The use is conditional. Name and address for the record, please.
Paul Gibbs, Sandwich, Massachusetts. I'm representing the applicant, the Juicery. Currently, the Juicery is located at 66 Cross Street. They are being forced to relocate or actually move out of the building due to redevelopment of their property. 58 Salem Street is roughly just less than a block away. Same use,
same tenant. Basically, it's less than a block away. I do have 2 letters of support from the North End Waterfront Neighborhood Council and North End Waterfront Residents Association.
And this is just for takeout?
Just for takeout, no seats.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Maria Lanza, Mayor's Office Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support. The business is already established in the community, and they have the support of the North End Waterfront Neighborhood Council as well as the North End Waterfront Residents Association. Thank you.
Council wants to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? Just one question. Does the apartment, tell us about the apartment?
I don't know, I know it's rented out. I don't know who it's rented out to, but
Right.
it is rented out.
I get it. It's from a store to a takeout. May I have a motion,
Right,
please?
there's currently a store on the first level. It was a candy store.
Will the signage from the old juicery be the same in this one?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you.
Calling BOA 735-866, 383 Commonwealth Avenue. This is a change occupancy from a 5-unit building to a 6-unit building and build out a new unit in the basement. The violation is Article 15, Section 1. The floor area ratio is excessive. 3.0 is the max. Article 2, Section 2-1. The floor area gross. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, Mr. Secretary, members of the board. Attorney Andrew Cara. I'm an attorney here in Boston at Rubin and Rudman at 53 State Street. With me, the managing agent for the owner, Scott Kirkwood from Boston Real Estate Collaborative, having an address at 1904 Washington Street. We're here before you this morning to seek your approval to add 1 unit to 383 Commonwealth Avenue. 383 Commonwealth Avenue is located on the westbound side of Com Ave, 7 lots in from the corner of Mass Ave and Com Ave. The current legal occupancy for the property is for 5 units. We'd be proposing to add a 6th unit at the garden level, basement level. The proposed unit would be a large 1-bedroom unit, approximately 900 square feet. The proposed ceiling height would be 8 feet 10 inches. The unit would have 3 large rear-facing windows and 2 smaller front-facing windows. Once the unit was completed, it would look substantially similar to the unit at the sister property located at 387 Commonwealth Avenue, which you can see on your handout. The owner of the property previously received approval from the Inspectional Services Department in 1987 to construct 7 units at the property, but 5 units were only completed, most likely for cost reasons. As you can see again in your handout, this unit was framed out but never completed. That's the 6th unit we propose to be adding. The property is located in an H365 zoning subdistrict. The proposed addition of the 6th unit would require a variance for excessive floor area ratio. The allowed FAR is 3.0. We would exceed that limitation with the 6th unit that we would be adding. We believe once completed, the unit would lay out well as a floor-through unit, would have good natural light on both sides, would also be in harmony with a number of other basement and garden level units that exist in the area that you can see at the bottom of your handout. There's about 5 or 6 garden basement level units in the immediate area on Com Ave. We feel by allowing this unit, we'd be providing a quality housing unit in a market where they're currently in short supply.
So tell us, what the unit is proposed to be 753 square feet?
Approximately 900 square feet once completed.
Okay. And where are the utilities?
The utilities come in through an access under the front stair.
And so they would be separate from the unit?
The utilities would be 100% separate from the unit, yes.
How are the plans, Mr. Bizzani?
The drawings are adequate, and you are sprinkling this unit, is that correct, or is it already sprinkled?
As it stands, the building is not sprinklered at present. It wasn't that way when it was built. It is my understanding that there might be a need to sprinkler that unit as well as provision the rest of the common areas of the building during
On
construction.
your small handout, you in fact show a sprinkle line.
So I think that pipe was actually pre-installed, but no connections were ever made. There's no incoming pipe from the street. So I think that was during the initial construction process before they abandoned the project.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Giselle Gurr with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this moment, we would like to go on record of support. By the time I had my abutters meeting, we already had a letter of non-opposition from the Civic Association, and there were also no great concerns against this proposal at the abutters meeting. So, thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Kate Bell from City Councilor Josh Sakem's office. We would also like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you. Calling the next case, calling BOA 782-2804, 163 O Street. This is a roof deck replacement. The violations, Article 68, Section 29, roof structure restrictions. Name and address for the record, please.
It's Michael Bosworth, 163 O Street. Thank you for your time, Madam Chair and members of the board.
So, tell us what's being proposed.
I'm proposing replacing a existing roof deck. The roof had to be replaced due to structural issues, and I'd like to replace the deck. There's similar decks in surrounding buildings also.
Because usually replacements don't come before us, so are you increasing the size in any way?
Yes, the size will be slightly increased.
So tell us the existing dimensions and the proposed dimensions.
The previous dimensions are 11.5 feet by 12.5 feet, and the new are 16.5 by 14.
And what's the access?
The access are stairs out the back of the unit.
Okay.
Which,
Spiral staircase or head house?
it's not a head house. It's just a staircase. There's a little back deck and just stairs up at an angle.
Excuse me, what's the size of the deck again?
The new deck will be 16.5 by 14.
But the drawings show 14 by 20.
14 by, they should. I have them. Let me scrap it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, because the deck extends from one side to the other.
I believe it's
and
just
the
this.
width of the building is 20 feet, therefore the deck is 20 feet.
It is correct that the building extends 20 feet, but I believe that's just the support. The actual deck on top of it would only be 16.5 feet.
Well, I'm looking at A1.2. It shows the joist running from bearing wall to bearing wall.
That's correct. The joist will, however, the usable structure on top will be 16.
Okay, the overall built project is 20 feet wide.
Yes, but the place they'll be used by the occupants will not go out that far to the edge.
So what's the other 6 feet used for?
I think it's just structurally they said that the LVL has to extend to the sidewalls to be able to support the structure.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tomas Gonzalez from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services to speak in support of this project.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Lauren Miller, City Councilor Ed Flynn's office. We too are in support. Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you for your time.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 784-511, 20 West 5th Street. This is to construct a 6-story, 54-unit residential building. The violations, Article 8, Section 7. The multifamily dwelling unit use is a conditional use. Article 13, Section 4, dwelling in a non-residential district. Article 14, Section 14-2, lot area for additional dwelling units is insufficient. Article 15, Section 1, The floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 19, Section 1, side yard setback is insufficient. Article 24, Section 1, off-street loading is insufficient. Article 80, Section 80B-2, large project review, applicability. Article 16, Section 1, the height is excessive at 2.5 stories, the maximum allowed. Article 16, Section 1, the required building height is excessive. Article 17, Section 1, the required usable open space is insufficient. Article 18, Section 1, the minimum front yard requirement is insufficient. And Article 20, Section 1, the minimum rear yard requirements is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is George Moranci, an attorney with the business address 350 West Broadway in South Boston. I'm joined by Tim Russell. Tim, along with Thomas Broderick, are the principals of Trinity Green Development, and my clients. Tim is also the project architect. Madam Chair, members, this is an Article 80 large project that was approved by the BPDA board a couple of weeks ago. The project commenced in April of 2017 when a letter of intent was filed to develop this site into what has now resulted as a 54-unit residential project. The site at 20 West 5th Street is bounded to the west by A Street, to the north by Gold Street, which ends on the easterly side of the site at the South Boston Hall Road. The southerly side of the site is West 5th Street, which is the project address. It's currently the home to a light industrial use Colmar Belting Company. It is 18,991 square foot site. Colmar Belting Company is relocating to a different site. The building would be residentially developed, as I say, for 54 units. This is within the South Boston Dorchester Avenue Planning Initiative, commonly known as the Growth Zone. And the project is entirely consistent with the requirements of the Growth Zone. It is in an area where ground floor retail is preferred. There is no ground floor retail here because there was an agreement that it wasn't necessarily an appropriate site for that, given its close proximity to Broadway. The building would be approximately 78,000, just over 78,000 square feet. It would be a 6-story residential building, again with 54 units and 41 garage parking spaces. The garage would be accessed from the Gold Street side of the site. Part of this project involves a separate process that we are in with the BPDA and the Public Improvement Commission, which will involve a demonstration project by the BPDA to effect a taking of Gold Street, since there is no use for Gold Street where it abuts the Hall Road. It does not connect across the Hall Road, of course, and the proposal will be a taking and then a conveyance in fee to my clients of Gold Street. Gold Street would then be tabled, which will provide for both vehicular access and enhanced pedestrian access on the Gold Street side of the site. It will also provide for a significant amount of public open space at the end of Gold Street. The project would also feature 10 IDP units, which exceeds the requirements. It represents approximately 19% of the project. There is an additional commitment in the growth zone for bonus density, which would bring it up to approximately 17%. My clients are exceeding that by another 2%, again for a total of 10 units or 19% affordable commitment in the project. With that sort of description and procedural history, Tim Russell, as I mentioned, is the project architect, and he can answer any detailed questions that the board may have about the building itself.
So tell us how the parking would work.
The parking, again, as George mentioned, we're going to purchase and table Gold Street, and then the parking comes in. If you look at A1-01, we come in at a garage door. It's in between column lines 4 and 4 at the rear of the building.
And these would be straight parking spaces, no lifts or anything like that?
These are straight parking places at this point,
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Councilor Moranci, did anything change as far as the zoning violations through the Article 80 process?
No, the underlying zoning is M1. It's still a restricted manufacturing zone. It defaults to the nearest H1, the nearest residential H zoning, in this case H1, for most of the dimensionals. Short answer is no. The zoning violations remain the same.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
What are the ranges of unit sizes?
Around 900 to 1,100, 1,200, in that range. They're either, the one-bedrooms are rather large. They're probably more accurately described as a one-plus bedroom.
No studios?
Yeah, what is the breakdown? Is it purely one bedrooms?
Ones and twos.
So the access to Gold Street will be from A Street, right?
Correct. Gold Street ends, that's the section of Gold Street that is a diving, that's a diving board at the end of it.
So it's ones and twos, and what's the range, Tim?
In sizes?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to go to my crib sheet.
And was there any conversations about threes in this process?
No, that issue, they're between, around 880 to a high of around 1,200. No, the issue of 3 bedrooms actually never came up. Is that correct, George?
Yes, it's always been a 1 or 2 bedroom project, 1 or 2 bedroom unit project.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tomas Gonzalez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support. They've completed the community process, and we want to support them in the process.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Lauren Miller, City Councilor Ed Flynn's office, we too wish to go on record in support. Thanks.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of City Councilor Lash Michael Flaherty, Council to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor Perez, representing the Carpenters Union, would like to go on record in support of this project.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair of the board, my name is Daniel Kahn, 50 B Street in South Boston, Massachusetts. I'm talking to oppose this proposal to an extent. We have letters from people in our building, about 6 to 7 units in 50 B Street, which is behind this building over the bypass. If I may read.
Can you summarize what the concerns are?
Yep. The concern is that they're building a 6-story structural building. Much of South Boston, as you know, in the article, new zoning laws asking or requiring no more than 40 feet, which is about 4 stories in height. And this is to keep more parking and slow growth development in South Boston, so we're very concerned about that. Concerned about, as I said, the height violation, increased demand in parking. In that area, parking is very limited as it is. We do know that over by the Broadway T station, they already are building numerous, they're building a hotel there, very excessive height over by that way as it is. And also concerned, I'm sorry about that. Yep, and another concern was by B Street, 50 B Street, and the units along there, along the condos there, are the 40 feet height max as it is. So there already is a bunch of condo buildings there that are within the appropriate height. So our concern is this excessive height that is happening in our neighborhood.
Do you want to submit that for the record?
I would like to submit all this for the record if that's fine.
Good, thank you.
Galen Vinter, 50B Street, also in the same building as Dan Kahn. I oppose this specifically for the height concerns as well as outdoor space. as well, in addition to the off-street loading, which is obviously a serious concern with the parking. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Venter, also with 50B Street, and I'm also representing the 50B Street Condo Association in opposition of this project for the same reasons stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any response?
Yes, with respect to the previous testimony, Madam Chair, I'd point out again, under the final plan, South Boston Dorchester Avenue Planning Initiative Plan, this is a 120-foot zone. It's been identified by the BPDA as a zone that would in the future allow for 120 feet of building height. We're at 70 feet. And also with respect to parking, under the guidelines and the planning recommendation, the parking ratio in the growth zone is to be a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 1. We're at 41 spaces for 54 units, and we're also within 4 blocks walking distance of the Broadway Rapid Transit station.
How will there's 41 spaces for 54 units? Who's the unlucky 13?
Well, again, the assumption is that, or not the assumption, but the data is that not everybody is driving. There are units here certainly for people who don't own motor vehicles. The majority
so
of
it's not associated with a unit. It's first come, first served.
Correct. It's whoever has the need. I mean, my clients did a project at 488, Tim? 488, and Tim can speak as to the number of unused parking spaces in the building's garage.
Is there a cost to those spaces, or they come automatically with the unit?
They will come, when we market the units,
No, the other project that you were talking about, unused parking spaces, was there an extra additional charge for those parking spaces?
No, I think we had still a couple that no one wanted them. We couldn't even sell them.
So they were for sale?
They were for sale, yes.
Well, that's
You
the
mean
difference.
the additional spaces? The additional spaces
Additional
could be
spaces.
purchased by people in the building, but there was nobody to purchase them.
Well, I guess there's a market force at work there. Jeff, when will this growth zone and this stuff be memorialized in the zoning?
Within the next 6 months?
Within 6 months?
Yeah, we've already started drafting. We already have drafts written.
So then these will be as of right?
Well, the height will be as of right, and there will be other initiatives and incentives for the new zoning in terms of height, density, and whether or not, residential development areas is a toy that we're looking at right now to promote this particular area.
One thing I like to add relative to the height as the architect, the growth zone notwithstanding, we base the height off of if you look out the building towards A Street, I actually designed 50B Street in a former life, the Allele, the McCallum building, the McAdam building, that entire area. The base height is 70 feet. The McCallum building does go up to a much higher elevation
Yeah,
as
that
it...
may be true, but we
Correct.
take each case on its own merits. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve BPDA, continued BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Calling BOA 784-527 11 Springer Street. This is to combine Lot 11 with parcel of 1,074 square feet to Lot 13 with parcel of 1,095 square feet to create one lot of 2,169 square feet, add a 3-story addition with 2-car garage, parking and roof deck to an existing 3-story building. The violations, Article 68, Section 33, off-street parking requirement is insufficient. Article 68, Section 8, the front yard setback requirement is insufficient. Article 68, Section 8, the rear yard setback requirement is insufficient. Article 27S, Section 5, is in the South Boston iPod applicability. Article 68, Section 29, the roof structure restricted district. Name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Mahoney of Adams and Moranci with the business address of 350 West Broadway. Madam Chair, we have an existing 3-family building at 11 Springer Street, and the proposal here today is to increase the same 3-family to the right and a little bit to the rear. The rear yard will be 10 feet and will otherwise comply with Article 68. The FAR is 2 that is required in this area. 2 is what's provided. The height of the building proposed is 34 feet. 40 feet is what's allowed. Initially, there was a roof deck. There is no roof deck in this proposal, nor is there a roof hatch. That was something that had come up in the more recent weeks leading up to this hearing.
Does Mr. Bazzani have the updated plans then, besides these that you just handed out?
He does. I just submitted a full set of plans.
Okay. And so what's the front yard requirement you're proposing, the rear yard you're proposing 10, what's required?
15 feet with the shallow lot exception is what would be required.
Okay, and tell us about the front yard.
The front yard requirement is an existing building alignment. We have 1.4 to 2 feet as the building slopes at a mild angle with Springer Street. I do have a building alignment plan. It should be within the full set. It shows all the front yards on Springer Street, the majority of which is 1 feet or existing building alignment.
And tell us about the parking.
There's 2 parking spaces that with this proposal. There is a lot to the right without a use of premise permit. Cars do park there, however. So the parking will remain the same. It's sufficient size for 2 parking spaces, although again, not currently legally permitted as parking. With this proposal, it will have 2 legal parking spaces.
So what's the parking requirement? So you're providing 2 spaces, what's required?
If there's no legal parking spaces, none are required because we're not increasing the unit count.
Okay.
But there is a space to the right where vehicles do park, although it isn't licensed.
And how large are the units?
Approximately, the first floor on Unit 1 is 778 square feet. On the first level, it's a bi-level unit with 800 feet above that, so that's 1,500 square feet. Unit 2 and 3, Unit 2 is 1,234 square feet, and Unit 3 is 1,238 square feet, and the top 2 units are 2-bedroom, 2-bath units.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tomas Gonzalez from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Lauren Miller, City Councilor Ed Flynn's office. We too wish to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? Just a couple more questions. Is there living space in the basement?
There is not, Madam Chair. It's on the first level. And then there's a... Oh, I'm sorry. There is living space in the lower level. There is not a unit in the basement. I apologize.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Calling BOA 661026, 236 to 256 Dorchester Street. This is to raise an existing structure on a parcel to create a new 24-unit, 5-story mixed-use development with below-grade parking and commercial ground floor. Violations, Article 13, Section 4, dwellings in a non-residential district. Article 14, Section 14-2, lot area for additional dwelling units is insufficient. Article 15, Section 1, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 17, Section 1, the usable open space is insufficient. Article 18, Section 1, the front yard requirement is insufficient. Article 19, Section 1, the side yard requirement is insufficient. Article 20, Section 1, the rear yard setback requirement is insufficient. And Article 23, Section 1, off-street parking requirement is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Mahoney from Adams and Moranci with the business address of 350 West Broadway. And with me is the developer and client, George Corey, to my right, and architect Doug Stefanoff.
Tell us what's being proposed.
Madam Chair, much like a previous proposal, this is in the Dorchester Ave Planning Initiative, which is projected to be zoning within approximately 6 months. and they're proposing 32 residential units above a retail store, Bell's Market.
Is this a 32 or 24 units?
It's 32 units.
And so it was advertised as 24?
It is, yeah. Yep. Oftentimes, the unit count is reduced since advertising because the initial proposal had 24 units, and through the neighborhood process, it felt the feedback was appropriate that there would be additional units added. Oftentimes, it's the other way, where someone would propose a larger number, and by the time it's advertised at the larger number, and we come to the board and it's a reduction.
I think the approach that we take is that it's fine if it goes down, but when it goes up, there's got to be sunshine that in fact everybody knows it's a 32-unit development.
No, that's a good point. It is an Article 80 project. There's a comment period. We have 170 letters in support. I have probably 20 people in the community that took taxis to come to City Hall and miss work to support the project. I would say there's more support for this project than any project I've ever done.
Okay, so tell us about the violations.
The existing zoning here is the underlying zoning, which is H150, and also it goes through the sub-district line of L1, and which is a local sub-district, and it will revert to the nearest residential S, R, or H district, which would be H. So with a height of 50 feet is what's proposed, but the height for this building, as we're advancing it through the Article 80 process, is 60 feet to match the Dorchester Ave planning initiative. The side yard violation, for the first 70 feet, there is no side yard. Again, it's an exception within the base code. The front yard is existing building alignment, and there's a rear yard requirement of 10 feet with a shallow lot exception, and we are seeking relief for that. The parking requirement is 0.9 to every residential unit, and we are somewhat less than that.
What's required and what are you proposing?
We are at 32 residential units. 0.9 would be what would be required, and we have 22 parking spaces.
You have 22 instead of 30. Yes,
exactly. And the reason for that is in the Dorchester Ave planning initiative, the absolute maximum you can have is 1-to-1. There's an initiative to promote reduced parking per unit count.
Is the expectation that people who use the marketplace will walk there?
They will, and also there's a bus stop right up front of the marketplace on
There's no parking for the supermarket?
No, there isn't. Nor would there be allowed to be. Yeah, there isn't parking for the supermarket now, and there isn't proposed. To add parking would be an additional violation.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, how are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate. Jeff, I do have a question for the BRA. Jeff?
Yes.
During the Article 80 process, how frequent is it that in fact unit counts increase?
It's rare. Rare.
If I can offer, during all the public meetings, the count was presented at 32. So
Sorry?
it didn't, in all our public meetings, the count was up. So like, it's not like we've been going to public meetings saying it's 24.
Yeah,
jumping it up here.
I agree. I don't think there was any deceit involved in this.
It was a reason.
You know, as the board is well aware, people will come in with 15 knowing what they need. So usually the counts do go down. I don't think there was any deceit or misleading in this
I
proposal.
just want to make sure that we're not saying deceit, but we are saying
Oh, I
that
understand.
everybody was aware that
Yeah.
that's 32 units.
No, deceit's my
not
my
24.
word, not yours.
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay. And so these are again 1- and 2-bedroom units, no family units? No.
The 28 two-bedroom family units.
We do have a couple that are a little bit larger on the ends that could lend themselves. We have some that are like 1,300 square feet, but most of them range between 900 to 1,100 square feet.
Any questions from the board?
Has a general contractor been selected for the
No,
project?
not
It's
correct.
Pardon me?
No.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
It is 23 parking spaces. I just want to make a correction
I'm
from what.
sorry, 23?
23, not 22. I apologize.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Tomas Gonzalez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Stephen Moore with City Councilor Ed Flynn's office. We'd like to go on record of support. The developer was personally engaged in the community process and worked closely with the community throughout. This is a project that the community is looking forward to.
Madam Chair and members of the board, my name is Maureen Kilcommons. I'm from State Representative Nick Collins' office. He would like to go on record as a support. Mr. Corey has been very good to his neighbors, and they're all in support of it. Thank you.
Now, are all of you in support?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? So let us get you a piece of paper so you can put your name on it, and we can register you in support. And how many people are we talking about? Let's see. Oh, good. Okay, let's get you a piece of paper and you can sign your name, okay? Is anybody here in opposition? Is anybody here in opposition? No? Okay, may I have a motion? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
So just make sure before you leave, you put your name on that sheet of paper so we have it for the record. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call it, want me to call back at 9:30? I'm just going to go back to an early case from 9:30 this morning. Is Heath Street here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
May I approach?
Come on, get table.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Okay, tell me when.
You come up there. Are you moving? For the record, I'm calling BOA 538-974, 61 Heath Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Matt Hensey. I'm a senior project manager at Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Development Corporation.
Tell us, so you're requesting an extension. Tell us when the permit expired and how long are you requesting an extension for?
Yes, ma'am. So the current ZBA approval expires on April 8th of 2018. And we are in partnership with Boston Department of Neighborhood Development. Jonathan Spillane is in the room. And the project is very close to closing. Finance closing is underway now. We expect to close. So my request for an extension is to hedge against the possibility of unforeseen delay. We may well close in March and start construction.
Motion for extension.
Is there a second? All those for 1 year?
For 1 year, sorry.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Do you want to take a break? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to call the 10:30 hearings. Are there any deferrals or withdrawals for 10:30? You come up here. I do have, before you start, ma'am, I do have, Madam Chair, the second case.
Is this Melnia Cass?
Melnia Cass has withdrawn. So I make a motion for denial without prejudice.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry, are you speaking in regards to Melnia Cass? Okay, have a seat, please.
So I make a motion for denial without prejudice.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm just going to call it in for the record, BOA 789-308, 7 to 17 Melnia Cass Boulevard. Are you moving forward with your project, or are you deferring it, withdrawing? Are you moving forward, or are you deferring?
I'm speaking on behalf of regarding Cass.
Are you in a support or opposition? This is to Melnia Cass?
Okay.
Okay, so you're good. Okay? Anybody else?
No deferrals or withdrawals for 10:30. Okay.
Yes.
Move forward on the first case, calling BOA 788-662, 587 Albany Street. Oh, yeah, I'll do that after. This is demolish an existing structure and erect a 6-story building with 6 residential units. The violations, Article 32, Section 4, G-Card applicability. Article 64, Section 10, density limitations, any dwelling converted for more families as a separate dwelling unit. Article 64, Section 16, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 64, Section 16, the usable open space is insufficient. Article 64, Section 16, the rear yard setback is insufficient. And Article 64, Section 36, R-Street parking is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano with an address of 15 Broad Street. I'm the attorney for the applicant, City Realty. Josh Fetterman to my right, D'Artagnan Brown from Embark is the architect in the project. We're seeking zoning relief at 587 Albany Street, as was mentioned, to take down the existing 3-story structure and erect a 6-story building with 6 condominium units. This particular area is zoned economic development area in the south end. It's a 1,833 square foot lot. The zoning code is pretty relaxed in the area in way of dimensional records. And so just to go over the layout, first floor, there is a studio unit. From floors 2 through 6, it would be 1 unit per floor, roughly 1,430 square foot units, 2 bed and 2 bath. Just to go over the violations as mentioned, obviously there's GCOD, which we have submitted plans to water and sewer. FAR in this particular area is 4.0. We're at 5.88. Our minimal usable open space is 50 per dwelling unit. We're at 16 per dwelling unit. There is no parking provided, although there are a number of parking areas within walking distance, but 0.7 is required per dwelling unit, and the rear setback required is 20, and we are at 5. This particular project has gone through a pretty extensive community process. We submitted a letter from the Blackstone Franklin Neighborhood Association that approved this project and really liked the design and layout. And we also had a number of abutters meetings. At this time, I can pause for any questions that the board may have.
So have you gone through through landmarks and tell us about whether you've been approved for demolition or not?
So we have not gone before them. We've spoke to the BPDA and we'll start that process.
Have you spoken to landmarks about it?
We have not yet, but we will be reaching out to them.
I'm sorry?
We will be reaching out to them.
Lincoln Street, okay.
Kristen, you want to go on record?
Sure. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Christian Simonelli, Groundwater Trust. I can confirm the plans have been submitted to Water and Sewer and they're currently under review, so I would just request a hold for signature at this time.
Okay. And have you seen the BRA's recommendation?
Not. We have been in conversations with the BPDA.
Alta, can you please give this to Jeff over there? In the meantime, how are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Faisal Sharif with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We'd like to go on record in support of their proposal. They did meet with the Blackstone Franklin Neighborhood Association. Neighborhood Association was very enthusiastic about the plans. We also held an abutters meeting and the direct abutters were in support of it. We would like the proponents to keep the neighborhood updated about demolition and construction management and things like that. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Steve Moore with City Councilor Ed Flynn's office. We would also like to go on record as supporting.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan. We have City Council Elijah Michael Flaherty. Council would like to go on record support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Myra Perez, representing the Carpenters Union, would like to go on record support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, it'd be nice to get perspective of the BPDA on this, given that they recommend denial without prejudice.
I mean, I think,
He's outside. Right up there.
Yeah.
Can we get Jeff?
Jeff, the BRA has recommended denial without prejudice
For Albany Street?
For Albany Street.
Yeah, so we based our decision purely on the planning process that we went through with Harrison Albany. We had extensive conversations with the property owners down in the southern part of the Harrison Albany. And if you notice, residential units are specifically not allowed we tried to focus all the residential units up on the northern portion of the Harrison-Albany corridor. So the underlying zoning right now, there are no residential, and I was intimately involved in that, and that was the BPDA's
And this is based
process.
on a planning analysis.
Based purely on the Harrison-Albany,
Okay.
so.
I'm sorry. I believe behind us and across from us, there's...
Could you speak up, Counselor? I'm having a
I'm
hard
sorry.
time hearing right here.
I believe behind, there's either a plan that's the Harrison-Albany walk is...
Right, and that was done through a PDA.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay,
a
so-
little different mechanism than it is here.
Okay, so that was a PDA, so this is not, this is purely a small site requesting this, okay.
Correct.
So given that information, may I have a motion from the board?
I'm going to make a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Is there a second? May I have another motion, please?
I will second Mr. Galvin's motion.
You will, is, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll go on record in opposition. This motion carries.
Oh, yeah, with the motion, we're going to hold for signature for groundwater.
And
Correct?
we will also hold signature because we would need to know about demo delay.
Correct.
Okay, so we just need to make sure that this is clear.
Right, and we'll
Okay.
work with the BPD on the design.
So let us, keep us in the loop on both those, both of those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Fisher Ave has gone to 1010 Mass Ave. They're on their way here now. So I'm going to call the next case, BOA 784-713, 20B, 20C Hawthorne Street. This is to combine existing parcel of 17,164 square feet that has existing townhouse dwellings with a vacant parcel and subdivide this combined lot of 25,469 square feet into two new lots. This new Lot A to have 21,317 square feet and erect a new semi-attached two-family dwelling, the dwelling to be fully sprinkled. This would be one of two dwellings on the same lot. The violations, Article 50, Section 44.13, two or more dwellings on the same lot. Name and address for the record, please.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Chris Tracy, Senior Director at O'Neill & Associates in Boston with a business address of 31 New Chardon Street. My client is Anthony Delizia of CAD Builders at 200 Revere Street in Canton. He is on his way, should be parking now, but I think we can continue without him if that's okay with you guys.
Yes, please tell us what's being proposed.
We are here seeking relief for a proposed 4-unit building in the Fort Hill section of Roxbury with 8 parking spaces associated with it. Violation is Article 50, Section 44.13 of the code, 2 or more dwellings on the same lot. The building is 2 semi-attached, 2-family buildings side by side. A bit of history and context as to how we got here.
Well, hold on, Chris. So it's basically two families, they're attached.
Correct.
So a total of 4 units.
Correct.
On this lot.
Correct.
Tell us how the parking works then?
So the parking works, it's a common driveway. So my client built an 8-unit building right next door here, and we're proposing a common driveway between the 2 buildings. When they built the 8-unit buildings, this was always considered the phase 2 of the project to do 4 units on this lot. I can speak to this in greater detail in a moment if you want me to give the context and the background
How long
first.
ago was the 8 units done?
2015, 2016-ish. I was not working for them at the time.
And this was not done as 8 and 4 as a means of avoiding a affordable, was it?
No. But there is a bit of history and context, though. This board, my client came forward in April 2016 with this plan, okay? They came here while facing some stiff resistance from the community, and it was denied by this board, okay? Since that time, CAD Builders has undertaken a sincere and thorough effort to both explore other development options on the site and work in cohesive harmony with this community, okay? CAD explored different development options on the site via an extensive research and analysis exercise. At the end of this exercise, they have concluded that the original option is the best to move forward with, and I will articulate that why, okay? This plan was done hand in hand with the urban design staff at BPDA. We think it's the most aesthetically pleasing for the site. We think it provides for the maximum amount of on-street parking in the neighborhood on what is already a congested street with parking. It provides for the most amount of off-street parking for future residents of the proposal. Provides for the maximum amount of green space on the site and therefore better drainage and water retention on site. During this due diligence period, my client also worked closely with the community and exhausted every possible option to save what was the existing home on the property. They tried to find a partner to move the house to another site in the neighborhood. They couldn't find anything that worked. Landmarks imposed a 90-day delay. They eventually deemed that it was not significant, and they have since demolished the home. Again, we're here respectfully seeking this board's relief after we feel we've had a positive and productive dialogue with the community. On January 18th, we had an abutters meeting at the Hawthorne Community Center that was hosted by the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I personally dropped over 100 flyers in the community notifying folks of that. We felt it was a very warm reception from the community, an amicable dialogue that happened with those abutters. No one voiced opposition to the plan. Okay, some people had some questions, made a request for a community benefit, which we have since done or are committed to doing. And again, after researching multiple iterations on what could have been done on this site, including this option to your right that has 2 driveways that we received a speed letter on from ISD and we're told we could do as of right. This is the plan we hope to move forward on because of the reasons I stated earlier. We think it's a flat-out better plan for us and the community. Again, worked closely with BPDA urban design staff on coming up with this design, and Michael Canizzo, here seeking relief on what we absolutely think is the best option for both us and the community.
So tell us about, so this address is number 2020 B and C.
Yep.
If I'm looking from these plans that you submitted, number 22, is that 8-family, did you say?
Correct. So just to the right of where my thumb is here, Madam Chair.
Okay, so was there parking relief that was required for the 8-family?
It was my understanding the 8 units were completely as of right.
Completely as of right. Okay, so this is technically 2 or more dwellings on the same unit, even though they're attached buildings.
It is, and it's a bit confusing because when they came before this board in 2016, they were flagged for a violation of cars traversing the 2 property lines.
Right.
After the denial, after we went through that exercise, they resubmitted the same plan, flagged once again, but for a different violation, 2 dwellings on 1 lot. As I understand, this is a new violation that ISD has deemed on it, and the City of Boston Legal Department has concurred with their ruling on it.
And how large are each of the proposed units?
We had Anthony here. 2-family dwellings. I don't have the square footage offhand. I apologize. Sorry.
And will there be, so this is a shared driveway. Will this be memorialized at the registry?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
How many bedrooms?
I believe it's 3 bedrooms a unit. Anthony, sorry. I believe 3. I can confirm
3
that.
bedrooms for each dwelling
Yes.
unit.
So a total of 12. How many parking spaces?
8 parking spaces, 2 under the building, 6 in the back.
That should meet the parking requirement.
We were not flagged for parking.
Yeah. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings ready.
Any questions from the board?
So just to be clear from your statement, what the design that you're bringing today is the exact same as the one that you brought before that was rejected?
Correct.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this
Yeah,
proposal?
no, I'm sorry, one more question.
ahead.
Excuse me. And the home that was on that site has been demolished?
Since been demolished.
Are you taping this this meeting?
Not this particular.
Okay. Okay. Which case are you here for?
I'm talking for a reporter
Okay.
who's outside right
Okay, we'd just like to get a heads up. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Joshua McFadden, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. Madam Chair, at this time, we've held an abutters meeting on the 18th of January. About 9 individuals who are abutters came out. No one articulated that they were in full support at the time. However, at this time, our office is in support. I know the applicant has also reached out and mentioned that they will be doing a community benefit, which we are in support of. I know at the time of the abutters meeting, the applicant also mentioned that they will be able to present in front of the Highland Park Neighborhood Council. As of now, we are in support based on these plans. However, I know the Highland Park Neighborhood Council also reiterated about just being good neighbors with the development team, and that's something that our office is strongly in support of as well. So that we ask, that the abutters, the neighborhood council, as well as the developers and the applicant just work that out. But as of now, we are in support, and we look forward to helping them work that out in the future.
Thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Ronald Claude from Councilor Ayanna Presley's office, and she would like to go on the record as support.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Rod Singleton, and I'm a member of the Highland Park Neighborhood Coalition. I'd just like to read a statement. The property at 21... Yep.
Summarize first. You can always put the statement into the record, but just summarize for us what your opposition is based on.
Sure. This is the exact same plan that they came to us with when they originally wanted to do the project. So we don't see really a difference in what they're proposing. They knocked down the house sort of despite the neighborhood, and now a year later they want to build there. It's ridiculous. If you want to make us whole, just put back what you had there. The density's too much. They're trying to get, and by the way, the idea that they've gotten no opposition is nonsense, because I was at the meeting and they got no support for the abutters meeting. You can check that, and there was a meeting last night where we voted 14-0 for no support. So the Highland Park Neighborhood Coalition is going on record as not supporting this project still.
Okay, thank you.
I'm speaking on behalf of Councillor Janey, and we're requesting a deferral on behalf of the meeting last night.
Your name and address, please. Oh, your name is your
I'm
name.
Zainab, and I work as a liaison for City Hall District 7.
Okay, thank you. So your District City Council is requesting a deferral. Okay, Neighborhood Services is in support. At large is in support. Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I want to make a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Is there a second? Come on, guys. Is there a second? No. No. May I have another motion then?
Motion for deferral.
Is there a second to that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And
I'm opposed to that.
What is the deferral expected to accomplish?
There appears to be some unresolved issues with the community.
Can I have an opportunity to rebut?
Yes, please.
At the meeting on January 18th, no one voiced opposition to 4 units. Again, they had some questions, they had some concerns that we felt like we left that meeting in a good place. We've taken the guidance of Neighborhood Services, and we were under the impression that we did not have to appear at last night's meeting, okay? And Josh McFadden has been wonderful to us, guiding us through this process. I don't mean to say that to throw him under the bus at all. We were under the impression that we did not have to appear last night because we had that abutters meeting, and that was the most critical piece of the community process.
Well, my motion for a deferral was based on the hope that there could be something worked out. If it can't, then we'll vote it up or down.
Okay, and one more rebuttal. The gentleman spoke to the density of the site.
Hold on. So there's a motion. There was a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please.
I'm opposed.
Okay, yes, of course. The date, please. So motion carries. May I have a date?
March 27th. We'll do March 27th.
March 27th at 11:30. Okay, we will take it's now 5 to 11, we'll take a 5-minute break, and we will reconvene at 11 o'clock.
Thank you.
of Appeal is back in session. Mr. Fortune, the next case.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, we're in session now, sorry. I just wanted to do a clarification. I missed a project at the end of the 1030s that is being postponed till February 27th, so I'm going to call it in for the record. Case BOA 794-741, 88 to 94 Lincoln Street is being postponed to 2/27 at 9:30. So February 27th at 9:30.
So this is a request by the applicant. May I have a motion, please?
Yeah, I'm going to call it in for the record. BOA 794-741, 88 to 94 Lincoln Street.
May I have a motion?
Make a motion for deferral.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's all set.
Madam Chair, we're going to go back up. Fisher Ave is here, so we're going to call BOA 741-372, 174 Fisher Avenue. This would demolish an existing single-family, erect a new 2-unit townhouse of 3 stories and basement. The violation is Article 59, Section 7. 2-family semi-attached dwelling unit is the forbidden use. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano, with an address of 15 Broad Street. Also here with David O'Sullivan, the architect, on the project as well, and Matt Eckel from my office. As mentioned, this is a proposal at 174 Fisher Street in Mission Hill. The proposed project is to demolish the existing single-family structure and erect 2 townhouse-style 3-story condominium units. This particular lot size is 3,467 square feet. This particular zoning district is zoned for row house. These unit sizes are roughly 1,478 square foot, 3-bedroom, 3-bath. Just a couple of points that I wanted to make. One is there is the lone violation on use. In this particular area, multifamily residential is allowed, and we could have actually proposed a larger scaled project with multifamily. It could have been rental or condo, but we went with the 2 townhouses with a commitment to the community that these would be sold and they would remain townhouse, 3-bed, 3-bath. We've heard, we went through a pretty extensive community process as we went forward, and just to give you a little idea of the layout, basement will be strictly storage, utility, washer, dryer. Our first floor, kitchen, living, dining, and a half bath. Our second floor is 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and our third floor is 1-bedroom, 1-bath with a family area. If you take a look at the packet of information, you can see sort of the one house as it stands out. All of the surrounding structures are made of a brick structure. They're all a condo development surrounding the area on the front and the back. As you go down, this is really a different shape topography. If you look at the lot, the shape of the lot is abnormal. Dips down in the back along Ellingwood Street, and it actually extends almost to the point behind the abutter's property as well. It's a very unique topography to the lot. We felt that this proposal, 2 townhouses, was fitting, that matched the area where the condo development is.
What's the square foot of each unit?
1,478 square foot.
And how many parking spaces?
So there'd be 2 parking spaces. So
That's what's required by zoning?
Yes, correct. 1 for 1.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are very nice.
So this is a forbidden use?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
This is the back of the hill development, right?
Correct,
So
yes.
surrounding it is
Correct. So one time this was all owned and developed by one group. Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Giselle Greer with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support. We understand that this applicant has gone through a very extensive process. They've met with the Civic Association twice. They've met with Back of the Hill CDC once for a special meeting, and I also hosted an abutters meeting. And while there is wide opposition to the case, we would still like to on record support, recognizing that the applicants have done their due diligence to work with the community, and some of the greatest concerns have been, the fence on one end which they have agreed to work with the direct abutter to take down and put up a new one. There are concerns from the direct abutters just down the street on Lawn Street in regards to their French drainage. They have agreed that they're not changing the topography on this project. They have also agreed to drop one of the units. The first proposal was to have 4-bedroom units, and it was actually a resident at the Civic Association who proposed that they drop a unit, which they have done. So at this moment, we would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have, is anybody here to speak in opposition? I see movement in the back.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the board. Will Poff Webster with City Councilor Matt O'Malley's office, representing the back of the hill in Mission Hill. Our office would like to go on record in opposition. Thank you.
Is there a reason?
Yes, the reason is the extensive community process resulted in seemingly extensive community opposition, so it's a result of the community process. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Alicia Del Vento here on behalf of State Representative Jeffrey Sanchez. We would just like to go on the record in opposition of this project, as well as said, extensive community opposition.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, my name is Maggie Cohn. I live at 129 Fisher Avenue, and I'm on the board of the Back of the Hill Community Development Corporation. We are in opposition to this project. I have testimony which I'll hand in, but we have a very big problem on the back of Mission Hill with student rentals, and in effect a lot of families have been persuaded to leave the neighborhood, and investors have purchased many properties and rented them to students. We appreciate the fact that this is being billed as a condo ownership opportunity. We have asked the developer to put deed restrictions in requiring owner occupancy. He has refused to do that. We think there is an extremely high possibility that these would be sold to investors and rented out to students. We proposed not just that he drop a bedroom, but that he take down a floor and make it a 2-bedroom unit instead of a 4-bedroom unit. The family room can be turned into a bedroom pretty easily. There's a full basement that can be turned into a bedroom. We think this is a lot of smoke and mirrors, and we want to go on record as opposing.
Thank you. Please put your name and address on the record and give us new information.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I am Christine Curtis. I live down at 143 Fisher Avenue, and I'm also on the Back of the Hill board. I can remember when the brick houses were built, we worked very hard to save that house, as it was the only one left in that area after the area had been totally destroyed. But we oppose this at this point for all the reasons that Maggie gave. What they're saying is changing it from a 4-bedroom to a 3. As far as I can tell, they just changed the name of one of the rooms. The fact that it's called a family room versus a bedroom makes it no less likely that it's going to be used as a bedroom. So I oppose it for all the reasons. The student housing is clearly going to be student housing. The refusal to do a deed restriction, they think they're trying to claim that putting it in the condo documents is the solution. It is not. Those can be changed at any time by the condo association that is in there. It needs to be a deed restriction, and they're absolutely refusing to do that. A deed restriction which does not allow undergraduate students there. Okay. I have one more comment to make, which I have not heard. I understand that they are talking about renting it out in the meantime before the demolition. They've been claiming that this house is beyond repair. If this house is beyond repair, why are they talking about renting it out?
Thank you. Allison, can you give us new information, please?
Hi, my name is Allison Piltonis, 81 Lawn Street. Lawn Street is parallel to Fisher, 1 block away. My opposition is new information. I think that coming to the ZBA before they submit a demo application and are heard at the Boston Landmarks Commission related to Article 85 is premature. It puts the two boards in conflict and takes away some of the responsibility that Landmarks has, and it is not fair. And I really feel like there should be a deferral, and the demolition request process should be heard first, and then going to the ZBA for whatever variance approvals are needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. Cameron Merrill on behalf of the Back of the Hill Townhouses Condominium Trust. The Condominium Trust is in opposition to this project for reasons which you've heard on a neighborhood perspective. While I do applaud council for attending various meetings, the concerns of the neighborhood and abutters were not met at the meetings to a substantial point where they were willing to support this project. Aside for the elements of the variance, I'd just like to go on record and state that this property is not unique. We have not heard reasons why this apparently or allegedly unique property does generate a hardship for this owner, and why the property cannot reasonably use as a single family. Clearly in 1987, when this board, obviously other board members, adopted the original variances to allow for this development, they found that a single family house was reasonable and worth salvaging on this property, and it remains worthy of salvage to this date. I did mail the board a letter on on January 29th with the 1987 decision. If it's not part of the record, I'd like to make it part of the record at this point. And we would urge the board to either reject or defer this matter for further study, submission of an engineering report. This building is at the top of the crest of the hill. There's a significant drainage problem that was addressed by a French drain which runs between this property and the lower properties to support the fact that any development of this site will not have detrimental effects on those developments beneath it, and to address other neighborhood concerns such as placement of HVAC, other mechanicals along that nature. So therefore, in summary, we'd like to oppose this project for further study, at least, and hear what the Article 85 results are before this matter goes any further. Thank you.
Thank you. Multitude of concerns.
If I can address some, Madam
Yeah.
Chair. First of all, as it was mentioned, just to note, single-family use is actually is a forbidden use in this area. It's not allowed. It's kind of a...
Single families always are allowed in all districts.
No, it's actually in the code.
Okay.
But I just want to be clear. So what is allowed is multifamily residential. So we have the ability to design this project to be a larger scale project with parking, meet the requirements as of right. We didn't want to pursue that option because, one, we felt townhouse for marketability, and to actually sell these units, we were not proposing to make this a rental building. We were quite clear with the community. The issues that we heard was the basement. If we touch that basement or add any square footage of living space, we would be required to come back to this board again. We made a commitment, and as you can see on the plans, that is non-usable space.
Let me just ask about demo delay. Have you been in touch with Landmarks about that?
So we haven't yet. It's not there's no historical nature of this building that we can see that would make it a landmark. We haven't yet.
Is it over 50 years old?
It is over 50 years old.
So I think that's what's the trigger for demo delay.
So it would be, we believe it would be just a standard 90-day demo delay if they ruled that way. But there's nothing that we think would make it a landmark.
But if it is deemed that it has been prototypical for that area and it is last man standing, you have to worry about that. Or if it is contributing in any way. I think there are 3 different tests for Article 85, not just the 50 year.
Sure. Some of the other issues that have come up, the drainage, we're going to put a full water and sewer plan, which we said would be submitted, an installation of a catch basin. We promised the fencing around the property, and the deed restriction has come up. Now, we had said we'll put in the condo docs, but to restrict the deed could affect financing and the marketability of these units, which could actually be counterintuitive of selling these units. So we were more than happy to put a restriction in the condominium docs.
What did you say could be built as of right?
Multi-family residential, so you could put 4 units with parking underneath. 35 feet is the height requirement, so we're at 34 feet right now. So you could put two-story with parking underneath, or you could fill in the back and have parking around the rear of the property as well.
It would also allow a 3-unit because by definition in the zoning, townhouses have to be 3 or more units. So we're essentially asking for a townhouse with 2.
I think that you guys have clearly heard is that there's concern about, and as in every project in Mission Hill, about student rentals. That's one thing. Second thing is this, the fact that one bedroom was just renamed as a family room. So there might be ways that you can actually work it down so it's more of a traditional 3-bedroom family type house. And of course, you know, everybody knows about, you know, people doing whatever they do with basements. So I don't know if there's any way that you can ameliorate some of those concerns raised by the community.
I think, I mean, we changed that bedroom out purposely, no closet, to make that a family room.
I understand.
We would be more than happy to work on that even further. You know, as I had mentioned, in any, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So does it make sense for a deferral so that we can have these items memorialized in some way with further discussion with the community?
Sure.
Yeah. May I have a motion to that effect?
Motion for deferral.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please.
April 10th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling DOA 786-649, 35 Cushing Avenue. This is a new 10-foot wide curb cut and previous driveway for 2 compact electric car parking spaces. Violations Article 9, Section 1. The proposed parking is an extension of an existing non-conforming multifamily home in a 3-family subdistrict. Article 65, Section 41. The location is not permitted if exceeding 10 feet in width. Article 65, Section 41. The 2 proposed parking spaces do not meet the minimum dimensional requirements for parking spaces. And Article 65, Section 41. The layout for the 2 proposed parking spaces does not provide proper maneuvering. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Peter Gammy. I'm a homeowner and 14 Upham Avenue.
I'm sorry?
14 Upham Avenue is the address.
So this is, and you're the owner of 35 Cushing?
It's on the corner, so it's got 2 addresses, 35 Cushing and 14 Upham Avenue.
Okay. So tell us what's being proposed.
It's a 10-foot wide driveway for 2 parking spaces.
Now before you go into the merits, we just have to remind everybody here that our approval is not based on the current proposal, but on the long-term installation of this driveway or whatever it is. So we always have to look at it in that way. So these are violations that talk about the minimum dimensions, the location, and maneuverability. So can you please talk through those?
Yeah, sure. So the one thing on the size of the parking spaces and the maneuverability, I have a certified plot plan which shows the driveway coming in and 2 parking spaces directly coming in. And the one space is a 20 by 8.5, and the other is a 7.5 by 18. So those 2 meet the minimum parking space requirements, and they come straight in. So that, I think that addresses those 2 issues. As far as location in the front of the building, there's really not a whole lot I can do about it. Like I said, we're on a corner lot, and there's no access to get around to the back to have parking in the rear. But I did, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So I did a butters meeting back in December, and there was no opposition. I met with the local civic association, and I had 100% support for the project. I have signatures from many of the abutters, in particular the abutter where the driveway's coming in. All 3 of those owners signed and said they were in support of the driveway. Let's see. And I think the only other thing I could add is when I went around my block in the immediate area, out of the 15 driveways in that area, 13 of them were very similar to what I'm
Yeah,
proposing.
but we don't know how many of them were legal and how many are not. So tell us about the maneuverability. How are you expecting those cars to back out, or how is that parking supposed to work?
Very typical, just your driveway going straight in and then back out just like all the other ones on the street.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Well, the maneuverability issue is a major issue which doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think we should hear from BPD.
Oh, yeah. And there's no place else you can accommodate on the other side of the house.
Unfortunately, no.
All right.
Sir, is your house the blue house? Is it blue?
Blue? No, it's green.
Green.
Yeah. The blue house is immediately across Route 36, and they just recently put a driveway in, and it's almost, well, it's almost.
So, and there's no way of accommodating the driveway and pushing up.
No, ma'am, it's the same scenario. In fact, there's less room to do it on Cushing Avenue.
We're not in the habit of improving front yard parking. Just going to go on the record, how are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Well, the issue with the plans that I have is that they're graphic representations of something that doesn't really work.
I do have a plot plan. I don't know if you would like to take a look at this. Yeah, it's not exactly the same as that.
Okay, let's see what you have.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is completely changed.
It was, yes, and unfortunately, a little bit of a learning curve on that. I tried to submit those, but it was after I applied for the appeal, and they wouldn't let me submit them.
Okay, so you have revised plans.
Yes.
Yes.
How are the plans then, the revised plans?
The revised plan has
Makes more
opportunity
sense.
makes more sense.
Yeah, because we were concerned about that maneuverability issue.
But it clearly puts it into front yard parking.
Right. What,
I mean, the initial idea for the first plan was to turn the cars parallel to the street, at least one of them, put some planting in front of it, so thereby concealing the car, which was good, you just couldn't make it work. So, I mean, one of the questions comes about is, if you sat down with a landscape architect or someone, they probably could make that work for you.
Yeah,
But as it's shown right now, it's so clearly front yard parking.
Okay.
I mean, this is the access to number 14 is right alongside.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Flavio De Vega, Mayor's Office, Neighborhood Service. As the applicant stated, we've held a butters meeting and went to the Civic. He's got support from the community. We'll go on record in support.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Joe McEachran, City Councilor Frank Baker's office would like to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
I'm going to make a motion to defer this, and the reason being, you have an opportunity here, hire a landscape architect and come back with a scheme that really works. You have that 5 foot, you have 5 foot on your left side, okay? I think the board would be willing to consider giving that up for a scheme that did not present itself as aggressive as this does.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please?
Well, it all depends on how fast you can, if Mr. Pisani's making that motion to get a landscape architect, I don't know how long that would take this
I
gentleman.
can get that done quickly.
So we can do an April 24th date.
April 24th. Can I get a clarification on what is, are you talking about giving up that or planting.
Just have a relook at the whole layout and make it work so that's less of front yard parking in any way. And if there's, yeah, you could, yeah, you could look it through and figure it out.
April 24th, 11:30.
And there might be ways of minimizing the visual impact of that, the parking.
Yep. Calling next case, calling BOA 726-332, 4-6 Auckland Street. This is a curb cut to access parking for 2 parking spaces for residential parking. Violations Article 10, Section 1, limitation of accessory uses, and Article 66, Section 9, usable open space is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kim Jang-Nguyen, address 4-6 Auckland Street.
So tell us what you're here for.
We're here for a curb cut for 2-car parking space.
And what is the use of the building?
Pardon me?
What is this, a house? What
It's
is
a
it?
two-family.
It's a two-family house, and do you live in the house?
I'm the owner, so I'm not living in the house, but majority of my family, other family members live in the house.
Okay, so tell us what you're proposing.
Just for 2 car parking space and just open a curb cut.
Okay, Ms. Bazzani, how are the plans?
The drawings are adequate. The distance from the property line to the side of the house is 17.1 feet. That would accommodate 2 cars side by side.
And then one of the violations is limitation of area of accessory use. Is there a garage there already on the site or something like that?
This plot plan does not show a garage.
We have an existing driveway, but there's no garage right there.
Okay.
I also have pictures here if you want to take a look.
Okay. So this driveway exists and you've been using it.
Where would the curb cut be in relation to that?
Looks like it's existing. So it's existing and you've been using it?
We haven't using it at all because we don't have the curb cut.
Oh, there's no.
We do have a existing driveway, but no curb cut.
And this is a two-family?
Yes, it is.
Why were you deferred so many times?
Because we have a tough time setting up meetings with the neighborhoods and abaters, but now we have all that accomplished.
Thank you.
Okay, so the plans are adequate. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is David Cotter from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I'd like to go on record in support. I held an on-site abutters meeting in which 3 abutters attended and expressed their support. The proponent also went to the Columbia Savin Hill Civic Association, who offered their support for the proposal as well. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Joe McEachran, City Councilor Frank Baker's office would like to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you.
Calling BOA 782-692, 2-6 Hancock Street. This is a change object from stores and restaurant to pink hair and nail salon. Violation Article 65, Section 8, use is conditional. Name and address for the record, please.
Anna Cardona. I live at 43 Pearl Street in Dorchester.
So tell us what you're proposing.
I am proposing a nail salon in a place where there was a hair salon before, but it was never listed as a salon, so I went through all the process to meet all the requirements of the city to open a nail salon.
Okay. Is this, so how are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Is it in a block of stores?
Yeah.
This is the plan for this one.
6 Hancock? Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Flavia De Vega, Mayor's Office, Neighborhood Service. The applicant has worked with Upham's Main Street, and we go on record in support of her business. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Joe McGeckran, City Councilor Frank Baker's office would like to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Will you have signage, new signs?
Yes. There is a temporary banner right now, but they are working on a very beautiful brand new awning, and the iron gates are being changed new.
Can you coordinate that?
And are there grates in front of this building now?
I think they said they're getting rid of them.
Yes, they are.
There are grates. So maybe we should put design review on it. May I have an amendment to the motion?
I would amend the motion to include the design review by the BPDA.
And there's a second?
Second.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So this would focus on the grates and on any signage. Okay?
Calling the next case, calling BOA 779-371, 191 to 195 Bowden Street. This is to construct new 41 apartment building with ground floor retail to be known as 191-195 Bowden Street. Violation of Article 65, Section 15, a multifamily dwelling is conditional. Article 65, Section 15, accessory parking is conditional. Article 65, Section 16, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 65, Section 16, the height is excessive. Article 65, Section 16, the rear yard is insufficient. Article 65, Section 16, the front yard, 65-41.1, street wall continuity on Bowden Street. Article 65, Section 16, the front yard, 65-41.1, street wall continuity from Top Lift Street. And Article 65, Section 41, off-street parking is insufficient. And Article 65, Section 41, off-street loading is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Attorney Sean Briere of the law firm of Hackett Feinberg, 155 Federal Street, Boston, appearing before you on behalf of the project proponent, Vietnamese American Initiative for Development, Inc., also known as Viet Aid. Here with me this morning of Lizette Lee, Executive Director of Viet Aid, Eric Fellinger, the Director of Real Estate Development, Nick Burens of Utile Design, which is the project architect, and Henry Joseph, which is the project consultant to my right. The purpose of the appeal is to seek zoning relief to develop 2 vacant lots located in Dorchester's Bowden-Geneva neighborhood. It's in the local convenience sub-district of the Dorchester Neighborhood District, located at 191 Bowden Street, which is currently owned by the City of Boston Department of Neighborhood Development, and the adjacent parcel at 195 Bowden Street, owned by the Dorchester Bay Economic Development Corporation. Viet Aid proposes to acquire both parcels and develop the site as a mixed-use project with 41 1-, 2-, and 3-bedroom affordable residential apartments, approximately 6,000 square feet of ground floor retail space, 900 square feet of meeting space, approximately 3,500 square feet of open plaza, and 46 off-street parking spaces. I'd like to introduce Lizette to tell you folks a little bit about what Viet Aid does.
So we are familiar with Viet Aid.
Oh, wonderful.
So can you please tell us about the violations that are before us?
Sure. First of all, the multifamily use under Article 65, Table B, conditional use permit is required to conduct 41 residential uses in one building. The floor area ratio, Section 65-16, Table D, require a maximum floor ratio of 1.0. Therefore, variance is required for the proposed floor area ratio of 1.4.
It's 1.4, okay.
1.4. Building height, the 40 feet is required in this district. The proposed is approximately 46 feet. The rear yard setback requires 20 feet. Therefore, we need a variance for the proposed 14 and 4 1/4 rear yard setback. The street wall continuity, Article 65, Section 38.1A. Variance is required where the building will not conform to the established street walls along Bowden Street and Toplift Street. Off-street parking requirements.
So are you meeting modal front yard or modal rear yard? What is causing that? Is that because you have the plaza in the front?
Exactly. That was a response to the community desire expressed by both the city, by BPDA, to set the building back a little bit and not observe the street wall continuity to set up that open plaza.
Okay.
The off-street parking, 62 spaces would be required for 41 residential units. Therefore, a variance is required to allow 22 spaces for the residential units. In addition, 50% of the parking spaces are to be compact stalls. Therefore, a variance is required for the deviations from the standard for maneuverability in light of the tight dimensions. And then finally, off-street loading. Table G, Article 65 requires one off-street loading bay. Therefore, a variance is required to allow for an off-street loading area as opposed to an off-street loading bay. In terms of community outreach.
No, hold on.
Sure.
Tell us about the units. How many ones, how many twos, how many threes, and what's the average square foot of each one of those?
There will be 5 one-bedrooms, 23 twos, and 13 threes. The rents will be...
how many square feet, the size of the building, of the units, average?
Yeah, so the one bedrooms are approximately 675 square feet, the two bedrooms are approximately 875 square feet, and the 3 bedrooms would be approximately 1,100 square feet.
And are all these affordable?
Yes, that's correct.
100% affordable?
100% affordable at 60% AMI or lower.
At 60%. Okay, how are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Flavia De Vega, Mayor's Office, Neighborhood Service, would like to go on record in support. The community supports the affordable housing as well as the mixed use. Go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, City Councilor Frank Baker's office would like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dave Vittorini on behalf of City Councilor at Large Michelle Wu, we'd also like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of the Council at Large, Michael Flaherty, Council to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jawan Skeens representing District 4 Council President Andrea Campbell, we would like to go on record of support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jessica Rodriguez, City Councilor at Large, Anissa Saibi George's office, and should also like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Christopher Rooney, Department of Neighborhood Development, D&D is in strong support of this project.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Ronald Claude, Councilor Ayanna Presley's office, and she would like to go on the record as support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor Perez representing the Carpenters Union would like to go on record support of this project.
Madam Chair and the board, my name is Allison Brown. I'm the board chair of the Dorchester Food Co-op. And on behalf of the 700 member owners of the Dorchester Food Co-op, we are highly in support of this project. And if you haven't heard, Dorchester Food Co-op is a grassroots initiative to build a community and worker-owned grocery store with the focus of food justice, economic development, and sustainability and support of local businesses. And we are the preferred retail tenant of the retail space for this development. So we are highly supportive of not only addressing issues of healthy food access, but also affordable housing and economic development. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Davida Andelman. I live at 94 Clarkson Street in Dorchester in the Bowdoin Geneva neighborhood. The Greater Bowdoin Geneva Neighborhood Association has already gone on record in being support of this project. These two parcels have been problem areas in the Bowdoin Geneva area for over 30 years. So this is a wonderful opportunity to put these parcels back into a more positive use for affordable housing and 6,000 square feet of commercial development. Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, my name is Maggie Cohn. I live at 129 Fisher Avenue in Mission Hill, but I work as a loan officer for the Cooperative Fund of New England. And we have been working with the food co-op since its inception, 4 or 5 years ago, and we have found this to be a really thoughtful, well-planned enterprise, and we look forward to making them a loan for equipment purchase and build-out at this location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jason Felice from Dorchester Bay Economic Development Corporation would like to go on record in strong support of this project due to its bringing much-needed affordable housing to the area and reinvigorating the space for commercial use, which will be a positive contribution to the local economy. Thank you.
Thank you. to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, if I may, I also have with me a number of letters of support that I would like to submit for the record as well.
Are you speaking in opposition, sir?
Yes, opposition.
Please put your name and address on the record and tell us what your opposition is based on.
Sure, I'm Jeffrey Bacon, B-A-K-O-N, and I live at 83 Norton Street in Dorchester, which abuts the proposed property. I don't actually live at 83 Norton Street. I own it. I've owned it for since 2000, and I took over the property after my father passed away, and he bought it in 1978. I mean, the property has been an eyesore for a number of years, and it's been many problems over the course of years. I mean, I would like to see something done with the property. I don't think this is the proper solution. I think that there's already heavy traffic that's in the area, and parking is really tight. I think what they're proposing for parking is not going to be sufficient. I think that it's going to be another eyesore for the neighborhood. So I'm not at all impressed by what I've seen so far. I think there could be a better solution.
So your opposition is based on the parking?
The parking and also the potential traffic. I mean,
traffic and parking.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is anybody else here to speak in opposition? Any quick response to that?
In terms of the parking, we feel it is adequate based on the Viet-Aid's experience developing other similar type properties. We feel we have provided an adequate number of spaces for the commercial use. In terms of the residential use, it is, again, consistent. It has located directly adjacent to bus routes, as well as within the close vicinity to both the MBTA Red Line and the MBTA commuter rail. It has been the experience of Viet-Aid that the parking is adequate for this type of use.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
BPDA design review?
BPDA design review, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 786-209, 395 to 409 Columbia Road. This is demolition of the existing Chapman waterproofing structures and new construction of a 43,000 square foot charter school. The violations, Article 66, Section 8, elementary, secondary schools conditional. Article 66, Section 9, the floor area ratio is excessive. Article 66, Section 9, the height is excessive. Article 65, Section 41, off-street parking loading is insufficient. Article 65, Section 9, the front yard is insufficient. Article 65, Section 9, the front yard, other street 65-42.2, and the corner 65-42.5, the corner lots is insufficient. Article 65, Section 9, 65-42.3, traffic visibility across the corner is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Justin Masterman, law firm Dane Torpy at 745 Atlantic Avenue. I'm here on behalf of the Conservatory Lab Charter School. My colleagues will introduce themselves.
I am Gary Goot. I'm chair of the board of the Conservatory Lab School, which is a 444 student school covering K1 through grades 8. We've been around for a number of years, but we've never had a permanent site. This is part of a two-piece.
Where is your current site?
We house grades K1 through 2 on Hancock Street around the corner from the site, and we rent temporarily space on Dorchester Avenue, 2120 on the Kearney Hospital campus for the grades 3 through 8, which we hope to move to this new project.
Okay. So tell us, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Lindsay Richard with QPD, real estate development consultant for Conservatory Lab.
Okay. So go ahead, tell us what's being proposed and speak to the violations.
Sure. So this is a approximately 43,000 square foot new school building with parking and outdoor space to the rear of the building. The site is a corner lot at the intersection of Columbia Road and Quincy Street. The first violation in elementary secondary school is a conditional use here, so we're seeking a conditional use permit to permit this use at the site. FAR, the maximum in the area is 0.4. Our project is at approximately 0.8 FAR. The height is 35 feet maximum. We're seeking a variance to permit about a 42-foot building, slight increase there. We are not providing a loading dock at the site. Front yard, we have, in consultation with the BPDA, oriented the building to basically come flush to both Quincy and Columbia at the corner in order to maintain the street wall, and for other purposes. The building that's actually there, that's going to be demolished, is in the same location, and because of that, we violate the front yard minimums, which are 15 feet on both Quincy and Columbia. And then the final violation is traffic visibility across that corner. We have a violation of that requirement. We have building that's going to be in that triangular space, although we have increased the size of the sidewalk significantly in order to mitigate some of those concerns with visibility across that corner.
Okay. And traffic and how will student drop-off be handled?
Lindsay might be able to give you a little more.
All student drop-off bus and vehicular will be on site through the back, shown here, going one way from Columbia Street to Quincy.
Okay. And tell us about parking. I'm sure you have staff parking on board.
That's right. We have about 60 staff, and our estimated need for staff parking is about 33 spaces, and we have 43 spaces on site, so that leaves the remainder for visitor parking as well.
And how many students?
About 275, 3rd through 8th graders.
And do you have a gym or anything like that that's going to attract traffic in the evenings?
There is a gym. There's no plan right now to use it in the evenings.
Okay.
Can I ask, where are you located? A catty corner from the liquor store? I'm trying to imagine what the building is there on Quincy.
Chapman Water.
Chapman Waterproofing.
Oh, yeah.
The liquor store is right here.
BPS, yep.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, because the food processing place is right
Across the street, and we're next door to the health center, up in Corners.
And loading, how do you anticipate loading occurring?
There's a side entrance as well as a back entrance for loading any small deliveries that we receive. There's also a back entrance for the buses and the vehicular student drop-off.
Okay.
So the buses would be coming in off Columbia?
Yeah, exactly, coming in off Columbia.
And going back out
here,
on Quincy?
Dropping off.
And where would loading occur?
Right here. There's a side door.
We don't have a formal loading dock, but our understanding is that the loading needs are going to be quite limited.
I think she's talking about loading children.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right here.
In the rear of the building.
In the rear of the building.
Loading children.
No, I was actually talking about a loading dock.
Oh, I was right.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Thanks for answering that.
Spokesperson.
So how are the plans, Mr. Bizzani?
Brian Sharada.
Any other questions from the board?
I do have a question about loading.
Okay.
So maybe that's where my head was. How many buses are you going to be able to what do they call that? Stack.
There's space for 9 buses.
And how many buses do you need to pick up the children to load the product?
8 or 9 of varying sizes, the small buses.
So you need 8 or 9 buses for the total pickup and drop off.
That's correct.
So everybody's self-contained.
Correct.
Excellent.
Okay.
So just to go along that same line, so the maneuverability of the buses will be able to get around as far as going down Quincy. Both streets are very busy, as we all know.
Yes. Yeah, we have a comprehensive traffic study that was done by VHB that included that.
Okay, thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Flavia De Vega, Mayor's Office, Neighborhood Service, would like to go on record in support of this project. They've met with community groups. They've satisfied all concerns. We'll go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Joe McEachran, City Councilor Frank Baker's office would like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Kerry Simmons. I'm a parent of 2 students at the school who are receiving a high quality and a great education, and I believe it would be a value add to the community.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan. I got City Council at Large Michael Flaherty. Council to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jessica Rodriguez, City Council at Large, Denise Sabi George's office, and the council would also like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Maureen Kilcommons. I'm from Representative Nick Collins' office, and he would like to go on the record in support of this project.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Mina Perez, representing the Carpenters Union, would like to go on record in support of this project.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Davida Andelman, 94 Clarkson Street. We've already submitted a letter of support, Greater Bowdoin Geneva Neighborhood Association, for this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? 2 love fests in a row. This is great. May I have a motion, please?
To approve continuing BPDA. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
Calling the next 2 cases, calling BOA 784-513, 1 Elm Street. Companion case BOA 784-5283, 3 Elm Street.
Mr. Fortune.
For one, you're going to defer? Oh, thank you. No, thank you for the deferral, but
This is a deferral for Elm Street?
name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is George Moranci. I'm an attorney with the business address at 350 West Broadway in South Boston. Here representing the owner. The project is 1 Elm Street and 3 Elm Street, requesting a deferral.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion deferral.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please?
April 10th.
Thank you.
Okay, the next case.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 779-503, 1156 to 1160 Washington Street. This is a change actually from 3 units, a sub shop and real estate office to 3 unit sub shop and barber shop. The violation is Article 65, Section 21, basement and first floor are conditional use. Name and address for the record, please.
Michael Smith, 1156 Washington Street, Dorchester.
So tell us what you're proposing.
To change the use from a sub shop into a barber shop.
From a sub shop to a barber shop, okay? It's a conditional use. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Drawings are accurate.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is David Cotter from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. Would like to go on record in support. We held an on-site abutters meeting. The only abutter who attended expressed his support, and Mike also has the support of the Lower Mill Civic Association. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Joe McEachran, City Council at Frank Baker's office, would like to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
I want to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Keep up the good work, Mike.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling 770-599, 85 Mary Knoll Street. This is proposed renovations in addition to a single-family home. The violation is Article 60, Section 9, front yard setback is insufficient. Article 60, Section 9, the side yard setback is insufficient. And Article 60, Section 9, the number of allowed stories has been exceeded. Name and address for the record, please.
Vernon Woodworth, 91 Center Street in Jamaica Plain, and I'm here with the owner.
How you doing? My name's Lecter Tavares. I'm the owner of 85 Marino Street. My reason of Sorry.
Have a seat. Relax. Okay, now tell us. Give us the information.
My reason of expanding this is to raise my family in this. In the house, I've lived in the city of Boston my whole life. I don't plan on moving outside of it.
So first, this is a single-family dwelling, right?
Yes, it is.
And you live in the house?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so tell us what you're proposing to do, one of you.
This is an addition and renovation of an existing one-family, going from approximately 3,500 square feet to 4,400 square feet. We will be extending also, both horizontally in terms of a addition for a second garage bay and enlarged living area and master bedroom, and also vertically by raising the roof line to create a new family room on the third floor.
The violations of front yard, side yard, and number of stories. So tell us what the front yard violation is. Is that an existing front yard violation?
There is an existing front yard violation, and it will be extended vertically and horizontally.
And the side yard?
Side yard is existing on one side. We are violating it on the other side as well by the vertical, horizontal addition.
Tell us what's required and what are you proposing?
What is required in terms of setbacks, the 10-yard,
Yeah.
the side yard setback of 10 feet will be reduced to approximately 5.5 feet.
And number of stories, is this a full story addition?
It is. Currently, there's only a crawl space on the house, and this will be a full story.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is this front yard parking that, what color is the house? Is that yellowish color house?
It's currently white.
It's currently white, but we're changing that color.
So is it that, must be that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yes, that
Okay, okay. And the plans are adequate, Mr. Bazzani?
That one's 81. Drawings are adequate.
Well, we look for it on the,
That must be.
it's that one, okay? So it's 81, 85,
Yes, is that a compound address?
81, 85?
No, it's
and-
only
We know it only as 85.
But does it
If
skip
you're looking
83?
at 81, it's to the right.
Oh, okay.
correct?
Your next door neighbor is 81? Okay,
It's this one.
okay.
It's white with a one-car garage under it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it goes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Tomas Gonzalez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, would like to go record on support. The proponent, the applicant, had one abutters meeting where he and the architect were able to address a lot of the neighbors' concerns. And he also attended the Apple Grove Neighborhood Association where he also received the support there. So we would also like to go on record of support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jawan Skeens, representing District 4, City Council President Andre Campbell. We would like to go on record in support of this project.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Calling BOA 768065, 5 Belmore Terrace. This is to partially remove exterior walls to enlarge kitchen and construct a deck. The violation is Article 55, Section 9. The floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Name and address for the record, please. Name and address for the record, please.
I'm Chris Roddy of 5 Belmore Terrace. This is my wife, Chris McGroddy. We've been homeowners there since 1998.
So tell us what you're proposing.
We are proposing a partial renovation to our second floor, which would consist of a narrow exterior deck in the back and an expansion, basically construction of a small bay on our second floor kitchen, basically deep enough for a counter.
Okay.
And it's roughly less than 40 square feet.
And how many units in the building?
It's a 3-family, but 2 years ago, we moved up and took over the top 2 floors, so we're currently, it's still legally a 3-family, but we're using it as a 2-family.
It's a 2-family dwelling, okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Alexandra Valdez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I would like to go on full record to support and also state that the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council Zoning Board also voted to support this project.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Will Puff Webster with City Councilor Matt O'Malley's office, representing Jamaica Plain. We would also like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of the Council Elijah Michael Flaherty, Council to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jessica Rodriguez, City Council at Large Denise Ivy George's office, and she would also like to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Calling BOA 773-3296, 41 Aldworth Street. This is a renovation of an existing third floor, an addition of 2 dormers, build new staircase from the second to third floor, replace door in existing deck with a larger door. Violations, Article 55, Section 9, excessive FAR. Article 55, Section 9, excessive number of stories. Article 55, Section 9, insufficient side yard setback. Name and address for the record, please.
Rick Ames, Next Phase Studios Architects. Daniel Moon, owner of 41 Aldworth Street. We've given you a brief handout. There's full drawings in your packages, but it's a pretty modest project. The house was built as a 2-family, always has been. There's an existing 3rd floor stair that's the old domestic stair in the back corner, which is illegal and common. Dan owns the top 2 floors. Unit 2 is 2 and 3 and is fully occupied, but you go up this back staircase. The petition is to add a dormer on the left side, a very small stairwell dormer. This side is non-conforming existing, so we're matching it and putting a little shed dormer on there to allow room up to the 3rd floor. The other variance is required for its FAR is 0.6 in the neighborhood. The existing is 0.7. By adding the other dormer on the other side, we're adding 150 square feet, basically in the form of headroom. And this is the FAR issue. It also triggers the 2.5-story. We're over. To be considered a 2.5-story, we're occupying more than 50% of that floor, which has been the case since before they bought it. So they're trying to legalize and put in a stair that they can get insured. The current insurance, there's sort of a rumble on them using this common back stair to get to their upstairs. And the dormer is basically trading out some skylights to provide some more headroom up in some rooms that are already occupied. Very minor interior renovations to accomplish this. They've had abutter meetings. They've met with the Jamaica Pond Association.
So hold on. The total addition is how many square feet? 150 square feet?
153, I think, in a dormer, and we're going up in the FAR because of that.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Alexandra Valdez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I would like to go on record to support and also state the support of the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council Zoning Committee.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Wilcoff Webster with City Councilor Matt O'Malley. Also want to go on record in support. There's been a lot of I's dotted and T's crossed on this project. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of Council Lodge Michael Flaherty, Council to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jessica Rodriguez from City Council at Large, Denise Sabi George's office, and she would also like to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thanks so much for your time.
Calling next 2 cases, calling BOA 685-524, 48 Green Street. Companion case BOA 685-526, 50 Green Street. Is Green Street here? We'll hold Green Street. Go to Sedgwick Street. You're going to go BOA 672-940, 63 Sedgwick Street. Sedgwick Street here? You Sedgwick?
Yes.
Okay. This project is seeking to combine lots in the occupancy of a 3-family at number 63 and with the 3-family occupancy at number 65 to a total unit, 6 units that would be erect in a rear addition and add dormers and fully renovate the existing structure. And the building is to be fully sprinkled. The violations, Article 55, Section 9, excessive FAR. Article 55, Section 9, insufficient open space. Article 55, Section 9, additional required lot area is insufficient. Article 55, Section 55-40, off-street parking is insufficient. Article 55, Section 38, screening and buffering. And Article 55, Section 8, use of MFR forbidden in a 3F subdistrict. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano, with an address of 15 Broad Street, representing City Realty. I have Josh Fetterman here, one of the principals. As was mentioned, this is a proposal at 63-65 Sedgwick Street in Jamaica Plain. We're seeking to combine 2 lots and 2 existing attached 3-family dwellings at 63 and 65 Sedgwick. We're proposing to make a 6-unit building to erect a rear addition, dormers on either side of the 3rd floor, and completely gut renovation and sprinkler the building. We're also, as part of the proposal in the rear, adding 6 parking spaces to the project. Right now, there's roughly around 4 of them, although it's not paved very well. This particular lot size is 7,580 square feet. The zoning sub-district is 3F 5,000. Our height of the building will remain the same at 34 feet. The reason for the addition in dormers is currently, as the building stands, there's small units in there. Units 5 and 6 are roughly 550 and 564 square feet. The rest of the units are all in the low 800 square foot range. We've worked with both the abutters and...
Let me just make sure, again, these are 1 and 2 family, 2-bedroom units?
So how big are the units? Is that they're all they're all 2-bed, 2-bath.
They're all 2 beds?
Correct.
Do you guys ever consider doing 3 bedrooms, especially this neighborhood that tends to be more family oriented?
We first presented a slightly larger addition because there's a huge backyard, but just working with the community and the neighbors, they requested that the addition become smaller
But within that footprint, you couldn't accommodate a 3-bedroom?
They're very long because it's side by side. So right now they're 4-room, 1-bed shotgun sort of style, if that's the right, or railroad style. And with the rear addition, we're able to reconfigure it and turn those big ones into good 2s. With we think we can get long-term tenants there. But in this kind of long, thin layout, the 3-bedroom didn't work without a bigger addition.
And what's the required parking?
So required is 7.5, and that's because we're combining, this becomes a 6-unit building. We have those 6 legal spots that we're proposing. Right now, there's roughly 4. As part of that plan, we're paving the whole driveway area. It's a common driveway entrance to the abutters next door. We're paving that all over, paving the yard, and it's a shared driveway.
Is there a grade change? Because I'm trying to picture the exact property. It's on the right-hand side, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So as you come into the backyard, there is a drop to the, what street is it?
Carolina.
Carolina.
It's pretty level until you get to the back edge of the property line, and then it drops. So I brought a landscape plan. We brought on a landscape architect because there'll be a small retaining wall needed, and there was also some feedback to preserve some of the trees.
So one thing that we worked with, because we heard concern about the rear addition from some of the abutters. What we tried to do when we originally had set this project out, it was a 20-foot rear addition. We're now at 6 feet, which is really the minimum to give us a little bit of extra room. What that does is it matches the houses in that exact area, so we're no further out than the houses that are existing, as well as we cut it in 3 feet as well. But we still have a 47-foot rear yard setback, even with the addition, and 20 feet is what's required.
How large are each of the proposed units?
The new units? I'm sorry, so you're roughly 994 square feet, 1,018 and 877. So the 5s become in the 800s, and the ones that are in the 800s become roughly 1,000 square feet. We were at 1,167 before we cut that addition back prior.
And will the common driveway be registered at the registry?
It is, yes.
It is now?
Yeah, it is.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate. You're fully sprinkled in this.
Correct, yes.
So there's really 2 3-families then, right?
There's 2 separate even though it doesn't look it, there's 2 separate deeded 3-family houses.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Alexandra Valdez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. After an extensive neighborhood process, I would like to go on record to support, also stating that the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council Zoning Committee also offered the support. They also had various meetings with the Sumner Hill Neighborhood Association, and they work very diligent with the neighbors.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Will Poff Webster from City Councilor Matt O'Malley's office, also going on support for the same reasons. Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Dan Janis. I'm a direct abutter at 69 Sedgwick Street, and I'm here representing all of the direct abutters. If you'd like, I have a letter that's been signed by all of the direct abutters.
If you'd like it for the record, please.
All of the direct abutters on either side of the property are opposed to the variance just for the reason of the addition on the back of the house. We have worked with the developer. We've had several meetings back and forth. We do appreciate that the original plan, which was, very extreme, has been scaled back. Our opposition is because of just the actual alignment of the back of the property with the windows on the adjoining houses. And just the way they are aligned, any addition cuts off our views and our sunlight in the kitchen, which is where most of us spend pretty much all of our time. Another factor on it is, even without the addition, the back stairwell to the house, which is currently inside the house, is going to be moved to the back porch. It's going to go from interior to exterior. So what is currently an area that you can see past is going to be blocked even without an addition. And then the additional addition that's being proposed has a real effect. We also just want to point out that all that the addition is going to be comprised of is one additional bathroom per house, per unit. So the whole addition is just 6 new bathrooms in these units that are, I think they're 800 to 1,000 square feet. So in terms of providing housing, you could do the exact same without any addition. Having a separate second bathroom in each of these small units is, obviously just trying to, pull a little more value out of the house. We've been told that these are going to be rentals for starters, which is fine. All of the abutters are owner occupied. So for those reasons, all of the direct abutters are opposed. Thank you.
I'm sure. Have you seen this letter of opposition
From
the abutters?
So we also submitted 9 letters of support as well.
I'm not doing a plus minus. I'm just thinking there's one issue that perhaps you guys could address. Alta, which is the first one? I just wonder if there's a way that you can make sure that this doesn't feel as intrusive as some of the abutters feel it could be.
That's the kitchen window.
The alignment and everything.
So we really pinched it in on either side. So we were at 35 feet across for the addition. We've pulled that into 32.
I know how developers are. You come back with something huge and then you work your way in.
No, but I think at this point, we've really scaled it so the view in the back where their rear patio, everything, they can see right out. We've also done a whole landscape plan because they wanted us to preserve the trees that were in the back along with the parking. So if you look out that window now, it's, we didn't have a shadow study because one wasn't needed. It's not going to cause any additional shadow. We will certainly work with them during construction.
Okay, thank you. So given that information, given that first concern, I wonder if that can be addressed through VRA design review. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion for approval with continuing VRA design review.
Second.
And Jeff, if there could be some concentration on that first issue addressed by the abutters.
Yes.
Okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set with that proviso.
Calling the next 2 cases, calling 779-361-43 Royal Street. Companion case, building code BOA 779-362-43 Royal Street. This is the change occupancy from a 2-family to a 3-family and legalize the existing 3rd unit on the 3rd floor. No work to be done. The violations, Article 51, Section 8, 3-family dwelling is forbidden use. Article 51, Section 56, off-street parking is insufficient. Article 51, Section 9, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. This is for a building code, 43 Royal Street, 8th edition, 78 CMR 903, mass automatic sprinkler systems. Automatic sprinkler systems in new buildings and structures shall be provided in locations described in the table, 903.2. 8th edition, 780 CMR, the International Building Code, 912.2, fire protection systems. Where a change in occupancy classification occurs that requires an automatic fire sprinkler system to be provided based on the new occupancy and in accordance with Chapter 9 of the International Building Code, such system shall be provided throughout the area where the change of occupancy occurs. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller, 28 State Street, Suite 802 here in Boston. With me to my immediate left is David O'Sullivan from O'Sullivan Architects, who's the architect on the project. To my right and far right are Richard and Victoria Rogers. They are the property owners.
So as is our procedure here, can you address the building code violation first?
Yes, Madam Chair. There is basically, the third floor has been occupied space. We're making no changes to it. It has two legal...
Let's talk about the automatic sprinkler system and the fire protection system.
So what our contention is that it is, from a building code standpoint, there has been living space up there with two means of egress and kitchen facilities. So we're really not changing the use of the building under the building code. It is purely we're changing the use under a zoning situation.
Okay, so how long are you maintaining that it's been a three-family, and what evidence that you have, do you have that it's been a long-term three-family?
So it is assessed as a two-family. We do have that.
There's a couple of things working against you.
Right.
Okay.
We recognize that, but there is absolutely no work needed from a building code standpoint to make this
So it's been assessed as a two-family?
Yes.
How many meters are there?
There are 3 meters.
Okay.
So there's 3 plus a common, actually. So there is separate utilities for that unit, and it has been assessed as a two-family, and there is no physical work required to make this a code-compliant third unit.
And this zoning is a two-family sub-district?
Yes.
Ms. Bazzani, is that response adequate to you?
The response is adequate with the following exception, that they have been reaping the benefits of a three-family for all these years. And now, in the act of wanting to formalize that, they want the benefit of not having to completely comply with that formalization.
So does that essentially mean that people have been living up there without benefit or protection?
If I may, it has always been a two-family. The living area in the third floor has been connected to the second floor unit, so it has not been utilized or rented out as a third unit. The space has been.
That actually doesn't help your argument. Okay?
Right.
Because that means that you are now
telling you the
truth.
It may not help the argument, but I'm just telling the truth as to how, you know.
Well, I mean, this board has never not granted sprinkler. You have an option, you can go to the state, but it's there for life safety. The reasons for it, the best argument that you can put forth is purely an economic one, which doesn't necessarily work.
Understand.
Motion to deny building code relief.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So tell us about the merits of the
Zoning.
change, yes, because this is a forbidden use.
Yes, that is correct.
So there's forbidden use, there's not enough parking, and the FAR is excessive.
That is correct. So just a little quick background. Richard and Victoria, they own this house. They've owned it since 2006. They own 47 and 53 Royal Street as well. They've lived at 47 Royal Street for 15 years. They own 8 units on the street, right on that one side of Royal Street. This if becoming a third unit on this property would be 9 units on the street. And what they'd like to do is they'd like to change the occupancy to add this as a third residential unit. It basically was an existing, I would categorize it as an in-law suite or its own living space on the 3rd floor, and they want to just make it its own unit. It's about less than 600 square feet. They'd like to add some cabinets and a kitchen range, basically make this space that's been occupied for living purposes its own unit. There's no change to the existing building envelope. There's no additions to the house in order to allow this. And the average total occupancy of the house in terms of the number of people who would be living in there wouldn't change. It is, and if I can just address the zoning, I can address each one individually. As far as the use is concerned, it is a forbidden use. It's a 2-family, 5,000 zoning subdistrict. However, both of their other houses, 47 and 53, are 3 families, 3-family occupancies.
And how long have they been 3-family occupancies?
As long as they've owned them. Yeah.
One since the 1940s.
And one since the 90s. Right.
So but the predominant
Every house.
fence on the street is a
Every house on this side, every house on this side of the street is a 3-family. There are 2 families on the street, but most of the houses, specifically on this side of Royal Street, are 3 families.
Did you say there was already a kitchen?
There is a
sink.
There's a kitchen sink. There's a cooktop. There's a refrigerator. There's no oven.
But it's not a full kitchen.
No,
it lacks the oven, basically.
Yeah, I would say it's a kitchenette. It's, yeah. As far as the floor area ratio is concerned, this would put them over the allowable FAR of 0.6 by 176 square feet. I would argue that this space has already been there, and they're not expanding the unit or making it any bigger. They're just capturing some of the space to make it livable. And as for the parking, the house has a 2-car garage now and 3 tandem driveway parking spots. Parking requirement would be, with this additional unit, would be 5.25, and they have now 5 spaces. They're off by 0.25. They are less than 3/4 of a mile to the Boston Landing commuter rail station. They're about 3/4 of a mile to the Green Line station.
Just back up for a minute.
Yep.
Where is this unit supposed to be? Is it supposed to be in the peak and the attic?
Yes.
Well, it's
Yes.
basically in the 3rd floor that exist.
It's the peak. So, if you discard the knee walls, how much space is there actually up there?
Basically, there's 600 and...
It's around 600 square feet.
Square feet of space. So it basically makes a 1-bedroom. It has a living room, bedroom area, living room, and kitchen area, and a full bath.
Okay. And how long has it been rented as a separate unit?
It's never been rented as a separate unit. It's always been attached to the 2nd floor unit. So this unit has never been rented as its own unit. It's been vacant this whole time since the current long-term occupant, his kids moved out, but they were always attached. They was always rented to 2 separate occupants.
How separated? I'm curious. What was the access? I mean, what's the...
The existing building has a common stair that goes to the 2nd floor in the back, and there was a door at the bottom that separated it out. And then the front has a separate stair as well. So they actually, for using this space, they'd always have to go into the common stair and up.
Is the common stair located inside the 2nd floor unit?
It is not, no. No, there is, basically you had to come out of the hallway from the 2nd floor unit into the common hallway, either front or back, go through a door and go up the stairs to get into the 3rd unit. And it was basically...
So it was never attached then? Because you had to go through common area to get to the additional unit. So it was never really attached.
No, they were detached. They've always been physically detached somewhat, yes.
Okay.
And they were basically we're taking what would have been 2 bedrooms upstairs off and rented as 2 extra bedrooms now to be a 1-bedroom apartment.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
As long as you're adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Warren O'Reilly, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We held an abutters meeting on the site, and the direct abutters were in support. So at this time, we are in support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Polanco, on behalf of Councilor Marciano, would like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Tony Disadoro representing the Austin Civic Association. We totally support the project. There are a number of long-standing three-family residents in this sub-district, so in essence, it's not a precedent-setting situation. So the ACA is in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval for the zoning from a conversion from a 2 to a 3.
With no building code relief?
Well, we already
did that.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you. Calling the next case. Calling BOA 749-878, 76 Easton Street. This is a change of occupancy to include a wireless telecommunication facility. Violations, Article 9, Section 2, changing the multifamily structure in a 3F subdistrict. Article 51, Section 8, wireless communications is a conditional use in a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Glissman, attorney with Prince LaBelle Tie, 1 International Place, Suite 3700, Boston, Massachusetts. I'm also here joined this afternoon by the property owner, Nick Corellis.
Okay. So this is a rediscussion.
Correct.
So tell us, now, put your name and address on the record, sir.
Nick Corellis, 76 Eastern Street.
Okay. So we had asked the representative here to bring you here because we were wondering about, first we had asked him, was there any other property in the neighborhood that would meet the requirements of this, meet the needs of the carrier? But we want to ask you about how this whole situation would work, having this this thing on your building.
I don't understand.
Tell us where the box will be. Tell us how this will work with the residents who live in the building.
Madam Chair, may I just jump in quickly?
Yeah.
We have proposed some additional design changes to this facility, so if I may, I'd be happy to walk the board through what we're proposing. So what I've handed you, you have 3 documents in front of you. One is the top document being the newest set of photo simulations with our currently proposed design. The second set of photo sims being the previous design, and then a set of plans showing the current design. We initially...
So which is the current design? Give me the number.
The first set of plans, you'll see they're dated yesterday's date, 2/12/2018.
Okay.
So if you just flip, really, even just to the first page where you get the overview of where we took the photos from, what we've done here is originally we were proposing 3 faux chimneys, each of which were going to contain 3 antennas for a total of 9 antennas. The chimneys were 9 feet in height. We've significantly reduced that. We've removed 2 of the faux chimneys, and at this board's direction, we've pushed all of the antennas into this center penthouse on the roof of the building. We've removed all the satellite dishes that were previously attached to that penthouse. And so we feel we've significantly improved the proposed design of this. You'll actually only be able to see now, the only view you'll be able to see is from the second photo location, which is along Mansfield Street, looking up at the back of the building. And although so that would be on page 4 and, oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm looking at page 5 of 8.
Correct.
Yeah, so that, and page 4 and 5 of 8.
Correct.
So what's the square footage of that, of the box in there?
So the new stealth wall matches the height of the existing penthouse at 6 feet 10 inches. I don't have the exact square footage of how much it is, but it's just enough to accommodate the antennas themselves, we've reduced the number of antennas from 9 to 6. So there are actually only 4 antennas in there and 1 proposed dish. I can get the remaining dimensions.
What is the material of that faux?
It'll be a fiberglass material, and they'll be painted to.
Like it's shingled.
That's a paint to match.
No, but there's nothing to match up there. So it should be at least to match the brick.
We'd be happy to paint the new stealth enclosure whatever color the board deems appropriate. We wanted to match the existing shingled penthouse there because it only actually wraps half of the penthouse. So on the other side of the penthouse, it will still remain the portion of the penthouse. And there is still one of the 3 proposed faux chimneys that's on the other side. It's just not visible from any of the locations that we took photos from.
How many faux chimneys do you have up there?
We have 1 instead of 3. And
the faux chimney is full brick, right?
It's full brick, correct.
And this box is, what is it supposed to be?
So the dimensions of
the fiberglass enclosure.
So it's an L-shaped enclosure, 2 feet 9 inches in width on the eastern side by 11 feet 5 inches, and then the bottom of the L portion is 7 feet 4 inches, and again 2 feet 9 inches in width.
And what's the? It looks like you're going to have some usage of the basement.
Yes, the basement will be utilized to house the mechanical equipment and the radio equipment and the actual computers that power the antennas.
So tell me, sir, will all the storage needs of the residents still be accommodated in that basement?
Absolutely. I mean, they're just taking a small portion, which is like a closet, I use just to put stuff in here. And it won't affect the tenants at all.
And how many units in that building?
6.
6 units, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
3 bedroom.
3 bedroom units, okay. Okay, how are the plans, Mr. Bizzani? I mean, are you satisfied with the way this box is?
No.
No. Okay. Any questions?
Who actually designs this stuff, you guys?
Hudson Design Group is the engineering and architecture firm that designs this. So their engineering team is the team that's designed it. And a little additional information on the boxes. We're not able to install the antennas directly onto the penthouse. It can't support them. So there is a small mount in front of the existing penthouse and then wrapped with the...
You know, I'm still puzzled. Couldn't you find any other building that could meet your needs in the vicinity?
We were unable to find another building that would meet the requirements of T-Mobile. We did submit an alternative site analysis to the board prepared by the site acquisition firm, but we are unable. This was the only building that we were able to find. And again, as I initially stated, it's designed to provide additional capacity and coverage to this neighborhood and this residential area.
And what's the benefit to the property owner?
The property owner will have T-Mobile as a tenant on the roof. It will also benefit the city with additional tax revenue. It will bring, increased and improved.
And what's the benefit to the property owner?
The T-Mobile and the property owner have respectfully requested to keep the actual monetary amount of the rental agreement confidential. They're bound by confidentiality agreements in their leases. T-Mobile has over 400 leases in the city of Boston, and it's not their practice to provide the specifics of each lease. Every lease is different. It's dependent on the need and the location. They range typically anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 a month in rent.
Per antenna?
No, for the entire installation, per carrier. So if you...
How many carriers are up here?
Just T-Mobile.
what prevents other carriers from going up there?
It's really a space issue, and at this point, if another carrier were to be on the roof, they would have to be taller than T-Mobile's antennas because T-Mobile's broadcasting over pretty much the entire roof. So I would think it'd be very difficult to fit another carrier on the rooftop here.
And what are the rents in the building? What's the range? Just the general range.
From 2000 to 23.
So it's like having another unit, possibly. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Is anybody?
I just had a
Go
quick
ahead.
one. You said there were other AT&T units in and around the city, over 400, is that correct?
T-Mobile, yeah, I was just given a rough estimate.
Similar to what you have brought in here?
That's correct, yeah. Many of which have more antennas. This is actually a smaller site. But yes, that's
And they've also had to go through this process, or is it as of right? It's not as of right.
no, they're not as of right, unless in some industrial districts they're allowed as of right, but for the most part they're a conditional use permit. Occasionally they require dimensional relief as well.
Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Tomas Gonzalez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, we would like to go on record as support.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Polanco on behalf of Councilor Mark Siomo, also like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Tony Disadoro representing the Alston Civic Association. I can't stand here and tell you that there was enthusiastic support for this proposal. The vote was very, very close. We did spend the time with them at the executive board meeting and at the membership meeting reviewing the concerns that were raised by the board the first go-around. I think for some members of the association, this is obviously territory that they're not very familiar with. So this was like a whole new type of discussion, what have you. So doing my job, I have to come before you and tell you that technically the ACA does support the proposal, but I need to tell you that the vote was very close and it wasn't very enthusiastic.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? So this is a conditional use, so we should think about what the conditions are on this, and if we want to see anything before it is formally signed or memorialized.
Well, I would certainly, from an architectural point of view, be interested in seeing these elements up there almost not visible, and having the black around it just doesn't cut it. I'm going to make a motion for denial without prejudice.
Is there a second? So if there is no second, may I have another motion?
I'll make a motion for approval, continued DEA design review. This is an improvement over the last go-round, which was unacceptable. And I would think consistent with the design review ought to focus on trying to reduce the visibility of the proposed installation as much as possible. This design said would probably make more sense for it to have a great surround than the current design for the black proposal.
And is the board interested in seeing the revised version? Yes?
Well, can I get the design review of it?
I do have a question for Mr. Pisani. Mr. Pisani, what would be the desired material used for this?
You know, everybody is proposing the faux brick, okay? But what really happens is that it is a printed material on fiberglass, and it does not weather at all the same way as the real brick. So on day one, it looks as if it's reasonable. On day 365, it is disastrous. The issue that I have is also the dimensions of this. I mean, this is highly visible, and even putting faux brick on it, you know, this doesn't really cover it up. I mean, what we really want is a Harry Potter, you know, cloak of invisibility. But I do think that if every time, listen, every time we have sent somebody back, they have always stretched and come back with proposals that almost get there. And
This one
the purpose
doesn't.
of it, yeah.
No, this one doesn't. So my question is, if we're sending it for design review, do we want a second look before it's memorialized?
Sure.
So is that a proviso on that?
I think a reasonable proposal could be a proposal for it, but signature held until we see what BPDA has actually come up with.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So it's been approved with that proviso, so we will see you again, okay?
Calling the next case, calling BOA 780-279, 132 to 134 Holton Street. This is a change occupancy from a two-family to a three-family. The violation is Article 51, Section 9. The lot area for additional dwelling unit is insufficient. Article 51, Section 9, the floor area ratio is excessive. Article 51, Section 9, usable open space is insufficient. Article 51, Section 9, the side yard is insufficient. Article 51, Section 56, off-street parking and loading, parking design. Article 51, Section 56, off-street parking is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Mark Lacasse, Lacasse Law, 75 Arlington Street in Boston. With me are the project owners and proponents, Mike Becker, Dan Botwinick, and Ian Hislop. This is a proposal to convert an existing two-family to three-family units by extending living space into the basement and adding a shed dormer on the right-hand side of the property when you're facing it. The three units would consist of a duplex unit, which would be the ground floor and the basement, with 4 bedrooms. Each of these units would be condominium ownership. We heard a lot in the neighborhood about the desire for home ownership in Allston-Brighton, given the very low home ownership rate in that neighborhood. The second and third floor would be occupied by 2-bedroom units. The zoning subdistrict is 3F 4000, so the three-family residential dwelling use is an allowed use. We don't need any relief for that. The relief relates to dimensional requirements. There is an additional lot area required for the third dwelling unit. The lot is just shy of 4,000 square feet, so we don't have the additional lot area for that third dwelling unit.
What is that requirement for the additional dwelling unit?
The additional lot area is 2,000 in a 3F 4,000 subdistrict, which
So it's undersized as is.
it's 3980. It's 10 feet under.
So you probably need 5,000, okay?
The floor area ratio allowed is 0.8. The proposed is 0.91, so ever so slight addition there. The open space requirement is 650 square feet per dwelling unit, which would be a total of 1,950 on a 3,900 square foot lot is fairly unachievable. However, when I talk about the parking, I'll tell you that we did increase our usable open space in response to neighborhood and abutter concerns. The side yard violation was cited and triggered as a result of the addition of the shed dormer, but the actual footprint of the building is not changing. The parking requirement in this subdistrict is 1.75 per dwelling unit, so that would be a total of 5. Our original plans submitted with ISD did show 5 with a tight maneuverability. However, in response again to our abutter meeting and our meetings with BAIA and the Allston Civic Association, there was an expressed desire to create more usable open space, so we reduced the parking from 5 to 4. And I've handed out to you the revised parking option, which shows the 4 cars and the addition of green space along the side. If you're facing the building on the left-hand side of the building, we turned that into a green buffer zone. We added some trees in the backyard. We also are doing an...
So, hold on one second. Tell us about the floor-to-ceiling height in the basement.
The floor-to-ceiling height in the basement exceeds 7 feet, as shown on the elevation on sheet A3 of the plans.
No, A3 says that it's 6 foot 1.5, and then it has a note saying it will go to 6 foot 8. It makes a reference to the Mass Amendment 305.1, which is an absolutely false reference. 305.1 is for 1 and 2 families, okay? You're going from a 2 to a 3. Therefore, you're subject to the requirements of multifamily, no longer 1 and 2 family, which would put it down to 7'6".
Okay, so right there, there's no living space in the basement allowed.
But ISD didn't cite us for that violation.
Well, I think if you take a look at ISD's usual zoning, it says that subject to later on.
So let's make a motion for deferral, or is it worth going through? Because if there is no floor-to-ceiling height in the basement, it's kind of a moot point,
So,
looking at occupancy in the basement.
Madam Chair, before we do that, if we do that, I just had a quick question for the counselor and the owners here. So you show the parking that you sent out here? And you show the stair, the means of egress to get out? You have a vehicle parked right in front. How are people going to jump over the vehicle to get out, or?
No, that staircase was actually part of a change that we made in response to the abutters. There was a desire to deactivate that side walkway.
Okay.
So instead of the stairway going toward the front, toward Holton Street, we turned it around. So it's just a secondary access point in the back of the building, eliminating activation on the side yard there.
So it doesn't go out to where the vehicles are parked?
It does go out to that rear area, yes.
So that's my point. So the vehicles are like right in front of the stair? That's why I'm just a little confused.
Yeah.
There's a 3-foot landing.
Is it a 3-foot landing?
That's what that shaded area is.
Yeah.
Okay. That's tough to say.
It's actually concrete, but it's not step.
Okay.
It's at the same plane as the pavement.
Thank you.
Okay, so that means no basement dwelling.
Well, I mean, what they could do, they could make a commitment to provide a 7'6" floor to ceiling height.
We can do that.
Indeed, if...
So that'd be part of the proposal.
So then it could be with no building code relief, should we proceed
Well,
to
I think we
approval?
want to be a little bit more aggressive, okay? I think we want to say that the basement will have a 7'6".
As a condition of the relief.
That's right.
And do we need to talk about sprinkling, like the other project that went from 2
you
to
are
3?
sprinkling this project.
We're sprinkling
aren't
it.
you? Yeah.
You're sprinkling this?
Indeed.
Okay.
That's the benefit of this.
Okay.
Unlike the previous project.
Okay, so how are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
No, they're fine.
Any questions, any additional questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Tomas Massalas, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We'd like to go record on support.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Polanco on behalf of Councilor Mark Siomo, also like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Tony Disadoro representing the Austin Civic Association. We'd like to go on record in support. We appreciate the home ownership opportunity that's being presented and the size of the project. We're hoping that it will attract families to this project. As was mentioned, we have a serious owner occupancy problem in Alston and Brighton, and we have asked, not as part of the support, but we have asked the developers to take a look at being creative and possibly doing some deed restrictions to guarantee that the units are occupied by residents. Thank you.
And on that point, Madam Chair, the owners have committed to placing in the master deed a restriction that would require that 2 of the 3 units be owner-occupied and only allow that 1 of the unit would be rental, with, of course, extenuating circumstances for things like job relocations or illnesses. And Mr. DeCedro was kind enough to provide me with an example of another master deed in Alston Brighton which satisfied this very same goal.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the relief requested with proviso that the basement height be no less than 7'6".
7'6".
Floor to
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Is Green Street here?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? It's getting late in the day. So we will rescind that vote. Please, please do that.
Make a motion to rescind the previous motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal? Is anybody here to speak in opposition? So put your name and address on the record.
My name is Ed Olosky. I reside and own 78 Antwerp Street, which is an abutment to this property. It's 30 inches away from the stairway and 48 inches from where the house abuts out. I'm concerned about the parking, number one, mainly from what the people have said, that the abutters, except for me, are not owner occupied. And if this is approved, I can see every backyard turning into a parking lot. It's just another way for, you know, people to make more money out of this. And the other, and I think that it should remain a two-family house. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Is anybody else here to speak in opposition? Okay, given that new information, may I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for approval with proviso that the basement unit be no shorter than a minimum of 7'6" high.
And do we need to consider screening and buffering of fencing to protect
Yes,
a resident abutter?
Yes, with BPDA design review for screening and buffering.
And Madam Chair, the plan that we showed you with the parking
Would not be enough.
has a fence.
It has a fence?
Has a fence. 6-foot fence around the side.
What
and
kind?
6-foot vinyl
Chain
fence.
link? Vinyl?
Vinyl
That
fence.
doesn't do anything.
It's a common building feature for fences.
Okay. Okay, so it has BPDA design review. Was there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with those provisos.
Thank you so much.
Is Green Street here? Is Green Street here? Okay. Going to call in for the record, BOA 685-524-48 Green Street. There's a companion case, BOA 685-526-50 Green Street. I'll make a motion for denial without prejudice.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's
And-
been denied.
The last case of the day for rediscussion, BOA 669-523, 16 Nixon Street. This is to provide, This is a change of occupancy from a guest house since 1946 and confirm a three-family dwelling in existing condition and request occupancy, no work to be done. Violations, Article 65, Section 8. Three-family use is forbidden in a 2F 5,000 subdistrict. Article 65, Section 41, off-street parking is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Andy Guam, 16 Nixon. My name is Stuart Schreier. I'm an attorney. My office is at 1005 Dorchester Avenue in Dorchester, 02125.
So first, tell us what's being proposed, and second, tell us why you were deferred.
Okay.
And what has changed.
What's being proposed now is that there's no changes being done to the building. The problem is that the legal occupancy is really, there's an error, not an error, but it's never been brought to the current legal occupancy. So there's a lot of opposition to this, so I'll need a moment to explain why this should be allowed. In 1927, Miss Evans...
So first, tell us what is being proposed.
Okay. What's being proposed is that this be legalized as a three-family. The first and second floor would be 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. The third floor would be 3 bedroom, 1 bath.
3 bedroom, 3 baths, and
No,
then
3 bedroom, 2 bath on the first and second, and the third floor is 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom.
Okay. And the parking?
There is no parking presently because none of the tenants have vehicles, but if parking was needed, if that was a condition, if the board sought to approve this, we do have room. It's a 5,800 square foot lot, and my client could create some parking in there if that was what was the, if there was an objection to that.
Okay, and okay, go ahead.
If I could go back a little history here. It's short, but it's important as to why this is why it is. Miss Evans purchased the property in 1927. 7 years later, her husband died. She was a widow with 2 children and her mother living in the house. She wanted to maintain her life in the house. She started taking in roomers, boarders. Back in the 1930s, there was a law called the Old Age Pensioners Act. They wanted to get people out of nursing homes and have them live more in a home setting. She eventually obtained a permit in 1940 to have 5 boarders. So ultimately, there were 9 bedrooms in the house. There was a bedroom for Mrs. Evans, a bedroom for each of her 2 children, a bedroom for her mother, and bedrooms for 5 boarders. That I've attached to the pictures, I've attached the Board of Appeal decision from 1940 that actually made this into a boarding house.
Okay, so
I know,
let's get
sorry,
to the
but
present. So how long has this been functional as a 3-family, and what evidence is there that it's been functional as a 3-family?
My client can only tell you that they purchased the house in 2015 at a foreclosure sale for a reverse mortgage. The Evans family finally lost the house in 2015 at a reverse mortgage. It was in dilapidated and poor condition. Permits were pulled to renovate it. There were 9 bedrooms, so it was renovated as a 3-family house erroneously. They didn't look back enough at the permits and see that it was a boarding house. So let me get to why I think this should be.
No, but
okay.
please.
Sorry.
So in 2015, so what evidence is there that it's a 3-family?
Well, for example, right now,
Is it taxed as a 3-family?
it presently is, but only for 2017 and 2018 is when they started taxing it as a 3-family.
Okay.
So-
And prior to that, what was it taxed as?
Prior to that, it was taxed as a 1, even though it was a legal boarding house.
Okay.
How many meters are there?
How many electric meters, how many gas meters? 4 meter, 1 public and 3 meters.
Says there are full 3 meters and then the public meter. If I could explain why I think that this should be allowed, there was a lot of opposition, and I want to talk about Nixon Street as a whole. On this side of Nixon Street, to the right is a 3-family house. This house is now being used as a 3-family. To the left is a 4-family house. There are 7 houses on Nixon Street on the even side. 6 of them are 3 or 4 family. There is 1 single family. It is a 2F zone. Across the street, there are many 2-family houses. The neighborhood is predominantly 2, but this side of Nixon Street, where this house is, 6 out of 7 houses are 3-family or larger. And my client, when they pulled the short form permit, which they probably was, it's the wrong permit, the only thing they really did, if you look at the picture of the right side of the house, you can see there's some brick underneath. They enclosed the back staircase. There was an open air staircase. They did enclose the staircase. But the house is what it is. It's a 2.5 story style house, 3 floors, and the plans show the 3 bedrooms. And
So why were you deferred?
we tried to do some neighborhood meetings, and I went to St. Mark's. At St. Mark's, there was opposition from a couple of people, but other people spoke out and said, look, the house was really run down. It was in very dilapidated condition. The Evans were not wealthy people, and they didn't upkeep the house. So when this gentleman bought the house, he had to fix it up and spent a lot of money fixing it up. And some of the neighbors said, gee, we walked by it, it was run down, now it's nice. If you look at the pictures, it looks like a nice house. And
So you went through a community process.
we didn't do very well. And I
Didn't
frankly...
do very well is the bottom line. Okay.
And here we are at the board saying, our choice is to go back to a rooming house. We don't think that's...
Well,
Well, what was the opposition from the neighborhood?
The real opposition is that the client didn't pull the proper permits, and he did the work, and now he's asking for forgiveness.
Okay,
Rather,
so-
he should, had he gone first,
Wait a second, hold on.
that was the option.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Okay, we have a question here. So there is a concern that it was done without benefit of permit. So, okay,
The work was permitted. In other words, in a short form, you can rebuild a house. The question is, the occupancy can't be changed on a short form. They should have pulled a long form permit to correct the occupancy before they did the work.
But with that, because it is not officially a 3, and you now have an incorrect permit, he's going to be required to comply with all the requirements of the three.
Absolutely willing to put sprinklers in. In other words, if this board sees fit,
But hold on, let's just hold on, okay? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal? Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Yes.
And please, if you speak in opposition, we started this meeting at 9:30, and I reminded everybody to give us new information when they speak, okay? So put your name and address on the record and give us new information that the previous speaker has not covered. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is David Cotter from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I'd like to go on record in opposition. We've held a number of community meetings for this proposal through the last several months. The abutters and the various civic associations are in almost unanimous opposition to this project. A number of them are here, and I'll allow them to speak for themselves. Thank you.
We have the representative speak first, if you don't mind.
no, not at all.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jawan Skeens for Council President Campbell's office. We would like to go on record in opposition due to, of course, lack of community process and the illegal renovations to the home.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jessica Rodriguez from State Councilor at Large Anissa Sybert George's office, and she would also like to go on record in opposition.
Thank you. So, Butters,
Yes.
each of you put your name and address on the record and give us new information, okay?
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Adam Gibbons. I live at 43 Mather Street. I am an abutter less than 300 feet, less than 200 feet from the property. The house, as said, has been a single family since 1985. They went, I think it is very clear they went in very bad faith to neighborhood associations, saying that they held an abutters meeting and that one showed up in approval, when in fact no members of the community that we polled, which is all along Mather, all along Nixon, received any notice, and the mayor's office confirmed this. Mayor's office confirmed. Neighbors have been complaining about this since 2015. When he bought it, pulled only an electric and plumbing permit, did not pull a permit for expanding the space, did not expand the footprint, but expanded the second and third floors by what seems to be at least 1,000 square feet. Did not consult members of the neighborhood abutters, there are many other developments in the community that are putting a lot of pressure, 25 to 40 units at Chalmette Station, several other properties where there's a lot of congestion, and we've had other properties where the same going around the neighbors happened, and the mayor's office can confirm, and appreciate the mayor's office and Andrea Campbell's office help, and that we are concerned about this setting a precedent. And the neighbors, I would just say, the abutters are agreeable to it being returned to a two-family, but we do not want to see a precedent where someone just completely ignores and dismisses rules or the concerns of the community. But we are not against him building a house. He owns 2 other properties in the community, but we expect a proper process.
My name is Greg Sorensen. I live at 12 Nixon Street. I'm directly next door to this property. When construction began, many of us began asking questions. What is the zoning of that? We learned that it was a rooming house. My neighbor asked the contractors, what are you building? We're building a 3-family. Our first question was, why is this happening? Why is there no abutters meeting?
Okay, so you're the first person who spoke from 43 Mather, you talked about the concern about the process from the very beginning. Is there something new you want to tell us, sir?
Well, just that we had called inspectional services, 7 neighbors, 7 individuals on our street. We were told there's nothing we could do and just to drop it. Now, that was perplexing to me because there had been no abutters meeting. So it was a matter of a lack of due process, a lack of not being heard by inspectional services, and beyond that, their heating system, the furnace system, this is personal, is so loud that with our windows closed, we are woken up in the middle of the night as their furnace turns on. And so to me, there's also a noise pollution issue, but that's something else. So thank you.
My name is Dolores Perry. I'm 56 Mather Street, and I'm a butter. One of the problems that we had a meeting on the 17th of last month, and all the butter, we had about maybe 12 to 15 butters. We all voted on this, and we all, nobody voted for it. It was all against it. As far as the house being torn up, messed up and everything before they did, that's not true. I've been on Mather Street for over about 27 years. What he's saying is not true. We don't mind a 3-family, but we don't mind a 2-family, but a 3-family, no. And to come in without a permit and build a house on it where we're taking care of the area, it's not right, because what if everybody else decide they want to make their 1 family 2 and 3 families? There are rules that we have to go by, and everybody should have to go by them. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sally Graham. I'm here representing the Melville Park Neighborhood Association. I attended the abutters meeting. I also was at the Neighborhood Association meeting where the attorney and the owner presented their case. The Melville Park voted to oppose this request for variances because the owner bought the property in January of 2015, immediately, as already stated, pulled the permits. Construction workers told the abutters that it was going to become a 3-family. The argument that the current tenants don't have any automobiles could be argued, may or may not be true, but they certainly have visitors who have cars. It's a very narrow street. It's a 2-way street. It's congested as it is. So Melville Park voted to oppose it. They voted to support the abutters, that they would, going through the correct process, a 2-family would be, would be acceptable to the neighborhood. I also want to add that St. Mark's Civic Association, while they did come to the first meeting in December, it was before the abutters meeting. St. Mark's met on January 30th, and they also voted to oppose. And the attorney and the owner did not appear at that meeting, but they voted to oppose for very similar reasons to Melville Park, that the process was not followed. And I will just add on not a personal note, but one of the members of Melville Park who was at the meeting has been trying for several years to make a modification to her home. She has followed all the rules of ISD, had abutters meetings, et cetera. She keeps getting pushed back with having to make more modifications. At the neighborhood meeting, she was very upset that someone who had not followed the rules and was reaping the benefits of it, where she has followed the rules and is unable to provide for her own family. So I think it sets a very dangerous precedent to allow this to be approved by the zoning board. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I address this? Yeah. Okay. First, there are really 2 violations. One is the use is forbidden, and 2 is the off-street parking. My client has the room and the ability to create 3 parking spaces and is more than willing to do so. As for there remaining only 1 violation, the forbidden use, the property meets the floor area ratios, the side yards, the setbacks, the rear yards, the height, meets everything else. The problem...
You've done so much work in the neighborhood. Obviously, you can work something out where this can work, because, there's an issue, honestly, you'll agree with this, about fairness, about people having a process, following the process, and doing the right thing. If there's parking that can be accommodated, come in with a proposal with parking. The neighbors have given you has given the applicant a choice here to make, to figure it out, because, it is a matter of fairness, and, we could talk about this for a long period of time, but, you know, there might be a way of working it out.
I don't disagree with that. My point here, though, is you got a three-family to the left, you got a three-family to the right, you got 6 three-family houses.
I'd like to
Thank
make a
you.
motion, Madam Chair.
Make a motion,
I'd like to
please.
deny the application without prejudice.
You
Go
can
through,
deny it straight because it means that we don't have to see a three-family again.
well, you just need to come back, you need to go through the process and come back with a proposal that has been vetted, and that we can consider it. They can't consider it on this basis.
So it's a straight denial, right?
That's fine.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned.